Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 212. It is a nice, warm, almost spring day here in Columbus, Ohio, and we are joined by a first-time guest, long-time listener, Kevin Capes. Kevin, welcome.
Very good to be here. Looking forward to it.
Kevin is in town for work and also for the
10 event
coming up at Tinder Box at Easton.
Have not missed one.
And we have Spencer Lappin joining once again with the new gear. Love it. The new BS focus on the silver lining shirt and the black and gray. I do want to thank our sponsors. We have Nate Hale in the garage, as always. Sorry, Nate. I'm Steve Crane. I'm just easy. Tonight we have sponsors again. Tinder Box at Easton, Columbus, Ohio. Do want to highlight them. They have the big Smoking 10 event, number 9, 2022, happening Saturday. There are still general admission tickets available right now. We're expecting about 250 people, which is fantastic.
That is fantastic.
Love to have it again. That's the tent was going up today. So, yeah, check that out on either social media. If you want to call the store, contact us on the podcast. We will get you the information on that. But general admission tickets are $135 plus tax. Unfortunately, for you guys, the VIP is sold out completely. But thank you for the great response. We're looking forward to a great weekend. I'm sure we're going to have some stories for next week's show as well. Also, Altadis USA, we've got the Romeo y Julieta Clemenchao tonight as the second cigar. Josh Bentley and all the people at Altadis, we appreciate that support for another year of sponsorship and a second featured cigar each week. Also, BS Cigar Company, the Gold and Silver are available this weekend. You can stock up on those as well as some other great Altadis products and everything else from all of the companies coming. We've got Eric Espinosa going to be there. We've got Laurel Tilley, who's been on the show from Macanudo. We've got Tom Lazuka coming in, owning Asylum Cigars, and we've got reps from about 10 other companies. So fantastic to see that.
How many vendors you got total this year?
I think total vendors is 13, I believe it is.
It's fantastic, man.
So, yeah, and that includes Lotus from Alan Gold will be there with Lotus. And that's all the lighters and cutters and all the accessories. So actually make the aging room ones you're using there, the gold and silver things that you were using. That's a Lotus product there. So fantastic stuff. Also want to thank you, Vanna.
Anytime.
Patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast. That's a way for you guys to contribute each month. If you'd like to do that, there's a $5, $10, and $25 tier option there for you. And now we will get you any new Patreon member, depending on what level you do, you're going to be able to get a free T-shirt from the podcast as a thank you. And then also Venmo. That's the way we got this bottle tonight, Venmo, at Bourbon and BS. So this was the bottle that Kristen actually picked out in Louisville. This bottle we're doing tonight, the Restoration Rye single barrel. But that's the way if you guys want to.
Louisville or Nashville?
Nashville. You're right. We were in Louisville. I was looking at you.
So this isn't tequila. This is
tequila. Yeah.
From
Restoration
Louisville,
Rye tequila. Yeah. From
I think you just think of him and think about Louisville.
It was a great weekend.
Apparently it was.
Anyways, if you guys want to help us out and do anything with that, Venmo, Patreon, those all work. And then again, Spencer's wearing is buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. Nate's got a shirt on that's available now as well, the 3/4 sleeves. You got the folks on the silver lining. And also this week is the last week you guys can get the green podcast shirt for charity. So that's $30 shirt. It's the Kelly Green with the Pour One More, Light Up Another. We'll figure this out together shirt. And that $30 shirt, $10 of that goes to St. Baldrick's charity. So great cause, great shirt. So check that out at buyjack.com/Bourbon and BS. All right, that's enough. Enough with the announcements.
Great announcements, man. You got that down.
Okay, yeah.
You got to do it pretty quick.
Yeah, I try to. It's a lot. I mean, I listen to podcasts and I'm like, all right, geez, here we go, sponsors. But our sponsors, you can actually get stuff, which is nice. You know what I mean?
So how did you get the bottle through Venmo, out of curiosity?
So
at least sponsor a bottle or something like that?
Yeah, so basically with her, she had sent a dollar amount. I think it was like $50 or whatever it was. And the way we went down, her and I went down to Nashville, and when we were down there, she was like, that one looks cool. And then she picked that. A way that you guys can do it, if there's a bottle you want us to try to get, you can shoot it like Venmo at Bourbon and BS, and then just in the notes say, hey, this is for a bottle your choice, or hey, I see this out and about. See if you guys can grab that, and then I'll communicate with that person.
That's
through
great.
that.
That's fantastic.
So it's a great way for you guys to help the show out, sponsor a bottle, because I know a lot of the listeners do like to help out. Now I got someone asking, is there a podcast tonight? So yes, Todd, there's a podcast. Hopefully you found it.
Well, and then on the community page, there's actually a list, one of the pin posts that has a list of all the spirits that we featured.
Right.
So if there's something you want us to do and you don't see it on the list, there you go. Help narrow it down.
Yes. So, so tonight we are drinking the Restoration Rye, and that is from Castle and Key. That is going to be the one we've talked about before on the podcast when we did the original Restoration Rye that we actually did pick up, I believe, in Louisville. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Restoration Rye that we first featured. Yeah.
Yeah, that was from when our trip down to Louisville. So Castle and Key, Marianne Eves is the brain behind that originally, the master distiller. She then departed there. She's been on the show before, but she departed before they actually put product out on the market. And this
Was
is the old.
she with Castle and Key when you interviewed her?
No, she had already. Yeah,
But she had started it. Or...
She started already her Eves Blind package, the subscription package. So she was joining us. I think she was down in Texas, I believe, at the time. So, but these products, I know that she had her hands in some of these, but again, had departed from that company before they actually put something on the market. Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, that was the E.H. Taylor old.
It was the
distillery.
old E.H. Taylor distillery, and when she was the master distiller, when they opened, she was the first female master distiller in Kentucky.
Yeah, so cool story there. But I love this. The presentation of the bottle is awesome. I mean,
well, tell them how heavy the bottle cap is. I mean, that's unique in and of itself.
The cork itself it's got a weight to it. I mean, it's definitely, I would say, metal, right? I mean, this is
I think it's 24 karat gold, Steve.
It's not 24 karat gold.
Okay. That bottle would be
I don't know, but it's definitely heavy. It's got a great presentation. So we thank Kristen and we appreciate the Venmo donation. Also tonight we'll get into it, but I want to talk about this first. We're smoking this year's release of the Filthy Hooligan from Alec Bradley, which it's a barber pole. We'll talk about that a little bit here. We've smoked other Alec Bradleys, but never this one, I believe, on the podcast in all of 4 years.
We actually have done the Filthy Hooligan.
When was that?
I think I had the Filthy Hooligan on a podcast.
We've done it because when I was typing it in.
Cool. Every year we've done this. Okay.
But
cool.
around this time of year, I think we have it though for whatever reason.
Yeah.
St. Patrick's Day.
They usually do start shipping in March in order to gear up for St. Patty's Day. They do this one, and then they do another one called the Shamrock that we'll talk about. So.
Yeah. All right. So this Restoration Rye, 119.5 proof. This is a single barrel released in 2021. This single barrel straight rye. So I got this at, Frugal McDougal in Nashville. Mm-hmm. And that's where we got another bottle we did recently.
That
Starlight, yeah.
Single barrel pick that they did.
Yep, that I grabbed down there. Mm-hmm. This one is barrel number 1480, bottle number 102, years aged 4, and Cooper Speyside. And then it says the mash bill is 63% rye, 17% corn, and 20% malted barley. So they have all of that information on here, which I also do like that transparency. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go online and look it up and figure out if anyone's gotten that information. Because a lot of times, I mean, the companies won't put it on there. They might put it on their own website, but I mean, I don't know if you ever done that before where you actually try to look up something like a mash bill. You have to sometimes go to different review sites, and sometimes you find differing information on that.
Well, you know what? I was going to mention that I'm a big wine drinker, and I love to look at the back of a bottle of wine, especially if I haven't had it, and get an idea, not just what region it's from, but is it strong? Is it full body? Is it spicy? Is it fruity? Is it powerful? Whatever. So having that on a whiskey or bourbon bottle is very, very uncommon. But like you said, it's a great feature. I've never had this. This is tremendous, and the presentation itself is very, very memorable.
Yeah.
I like that we're drinking something that's not necessarily a high rye on a night like tonight, just because the weather's a little nicer. You know, maybe if this was a couple months ago, have something that's a little bit more of a high rye, but to have a rye was it 65? 63. I mean, it's very approachable
60.
on a
119.5.
spring night or
the rye. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
But on a spring night or a summer night, I mean, this is just an easy rye to get down. That's not gonna not to coat you too much. Doesn't get you too warm inside.
You're saying if it was colder, you'd want more
So typically, if colder, the higher ryes are what 95, somewhere even close to 100.
Typically, you're going to have a 95% rye with 5% barley.
Yeah.
Typically, stuff like that on colder nights in general, just because of the spices that you get out of it. It's more of a winter drink than it would be a summer. Just like you don't want to drink something super smoky on, if it's 90 degrees outside.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, that makes complete sense.
The only thing about this bottle that may deter some people from drinking it on a warmer day would be that proof. It being 119.5, some people that's going to be a little bit much, but I think because this is not a straight rye, it's a little bit more balanced. It's got a little bit more sweetness, and it's a little bit more approachable.
It doesn't feel like 119.
No,
or taste it.
It lingers though. I tell you, it's got a long finish.
I think it's a little oily.
It doesn't bite like I thought it would when I first saw the bottle.
No, but I've got it.
It's very smooth.
I've got it like right in the kind of
center.
the front, but center mainly of the tongue, where it's almost got
it's sitting.
What?
It's sitting there.
For like a spice, or like a cinnamon, or something there, where it's like it's just sitting. It does not go away. What do you think, Nate?
Just like swish around.
The first sip I had before we went live, I actually got like some orange, some citrus on it.
Yes.
And then like as you start getting into it, you get a little bit more vanilla, a little bit more oak.
Getting a whole lot of vanilla.
It's more on the back, not quite the finish, but just a little bit on the back of the palate. I get some vanilla there.
Okay.
On the nose, it's very, very bright. Like it like just
the newer, brighter, younger.
Well, no, not because of the young. It just
citrusy.
I remember with ryes don't have to age as long to
anything after 4
flavor. Like a lot of ryes that you see out there are going to be like a 2, 3, 4 year rye. Because we've had some ryes, like when Sean Anderson was in town last year. I mean, that was a 7-year rye that was 118 proof.
Yeah,
that bottle was dark. It was uncut, unfiltered, straight out of the barrel. Very, very
floaters
whiskey, very heavy, ton of flavor. But then we've also had some 10-year ryes that were lighter color than this, and like you could easily drink that when it was 95 degrees because it just tasted so light.
Nate, I don't think I've asked you this before. Are you an oak chaser or no?
What do you mean oak?
Like, do you like
that new
stuff
term?
that
I like it.
Have like certain people like the older stuff because they get more of the oak flavor in it. That's why they like older bottles in general.
I'm not an oak chaser. I'm a flavor chaser. So as long as it's a good bottle, then I don't care how old it is.
But you're not searching for, hey, I'm looking for these types of flavors. You'll accept any type of flavor.
No, I mean, when I go to buy a bottle that I haven't had before, I mean, it's got to do something to appeal to me. It's got to make me want to buy the bottle. But then what's in the bottle is what's going to make me buy it again or not.
Am I allowed to make a comment on something that's not
shut up.
Just shut up.
Raise your hand.
Mute him. Get him out of here.
Yeah. Fuck off for 1,000, please, Alex. This reminds me, honestly, I drink a lot more scotch than I do bourbon and very seldom rye. This reminds me of a stronger Macallan. The vanilla, the oak, some of the citrusy. That was my first. Obviously, this is much stronger, but that was my first instinct.
Interesting.
When I first took. I mean, this obviously sits in the front, middle of the tongue. This to me is a stronger Macallan.
Perfect.
That's interesting. You say that. I mean, I kind of agree with you what you're saying there. It kind of has a little bit of that.
Aren't scotches kind of like with Irish whiskeys? You don't tend to find too many that are going to be very high proofs. Like most of them,
they're 80 usually.
Most of them, most of them are going to run 80 proof, unlike bourbon or ryes that are going to run anywhere from 80 to 130 something.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. Yeah, I don't know if a scotch it's more than 80. Yeah. I'm sure there is one. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, most because we had the gentleman from Middleton a few years ago.
Not from Middleton. You're talking about Barry.
Barry. From Stories and Sips.
Stories and Sips.
Yeah.
Yep.
He was telling us, he's like, yeah, one of the big differences with Irish whiskey versus American whiskey, especially bourbon, is it's all 80 proof. So they're always cutting it, and that so they're trying to make a mash bill and a blend that tastes good at 80 proof, whereas a lot of your bourbon distillers, they just want to make something that tastes really good at whatever they're going to bottle it, and then if they decide to do a single barrel, it's like, well, we hope it's a little better because we're going to charge a shit ton more for it.
So can you refresh me on the background of Castle and Key?
So Castle and Key, Nate, you can kind of chime in here too. But yeah, the old E.H. Taylor distillery, and it was purchased and restored by a couple of gentlemen, if I'm not mistaken. I can't recall their names. I didn't brush up on it. We did talk about it in greater detail when we did the restoration.
When we did the restoration, because that distillery had sat empty since Prohibition.
Yeah.
So they bought it, got it up and running because it had been pretty much run down at that point. Yeah,
it's been pretty dilapidated.
So they opened it up, I want to say around 2016, 2017. There's actually a little documentary. I know it's on Hulu. It's called Neat, and it's the story of Bourbon.
Yeah.
And Marianne Eaves is actually in that and talks about them opening Castle and Key.
Yeah, at the time they were there. But this, if I'm not mistaken, does that say 2020 on the bottle you have near you?
2021.
That is 2021. That was the first, right? Or was that batch 2?
No, this was batch number 1.
Yeah, so that was the first product, to my knowledge, today.
So that means they would open 2017, 2018.
Yeah, but they didn't have a product on the market until that bottle there.
Can we get this in Ohio?
Not to my knowledge, no. But like I said, this is a single barrel, so I don't know what the projects. I think that's more readily available. But I mean, they're starting to pump out some stuff. I was happy to see this bottle.
What would this run at the?
This
shop?
one I think was about 65. Okay. So nothing crazy.
Do you remember what you paid for the regular restoration?
It was around 50, 60, if I'm not mistaken.
Is this their own juice?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. That was the whole thing with that Marianne Eaves being a part of it. She's not really, I don't think, on any of the website or anything now, since she's not with them, but that she was the first, like, as he said, female master distiller that was being employed in Kentucky. So this is, I assume, partly her creation at that time, getting it ready as they were aging these things.
Can you only get this in Tennessee or Kentucky, or they just don't have it in Ohio? Is it in other states?
Yeah, I believe it's distributed elsewhere. But
might have in PA. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
Ohio, anyone who knows Ohio liquor knows Ohio is one of the more difficult states to get new products or any product into, really. So,
why is that?
Just the way our laws are.
It's a legal thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're also a price-controlled state, so everything runs through the state of Ohio.
Kevin's from Pennsylvania. Lives in Pennsylvania now.
Yeah.
Which is also a very, very strict alcohol state. When I first moved there in 2016, you couldn't even buy beer in a gas station. They didn't sell wine at a grocery store. It was a
what about Sundays?
Can
you buy it on Sundays, alcohol? I'm not kidding. I mean, I know there's some states that, like,
yes,
Sundays,
liquor stores are open.
I don't think in Tennessee you can.
Well, where my family's from in Kentucky, you can't buy beer on Sunday until after 3:00.
Yeah.
After church.
Yeah, I found that out the hard way.
Oh, that probably is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, they're old laws there.
It used to be a dry county. We used to have to go across the river into West Virginia to buy beer and come back, and there'd usually be a cop waiting on the other side of the bridge that would stop you.
Wow.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
We've come a long way, at least.
Then you and the other Duke boys would just start really hitting the gas and finding the dirt.
Causing a ruckus.
I wasn't old enough to drive back then. I was the spotter.
You were holding the moonshine.
Did you just finish it all before you hit the state line, or how did that work?
No, I was too young to drink at that point.
Finish it before they pull you over.
Listen,
you can't get me.
This is empty, guy. I don't know what you're talking
what
about.
are you talking about? This bottle was empty when I got it.
I'm gonna give you a DUI, sir, but at least I won't write you up for a liquor violation.
Yeah.
You're hammered, sir. You're hammered.
It's also part of the country where we used to go hunting from the pickup truck. Like drive down the road and like, oh, there's a groundhog, and shoot it from the truck.
Beautiful.
So, quick story about my friend Mr. Capes here.
All right.
So we've known each other for
you need a permission slip.
Got to be close to 30 years. He's known Crane here. He's got to be close to 15 years.
I've known him a while.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Just talking about consuming alcohol, not letting everyone know. So my sister is a few years younger than me. At her graduation party, Kevin came over to the graduation party, and we're serving some alcohol, and Kevin has about 14 vodkas, maybe 10 to 14, and we're about to leave. And my mom's like, Kevin, have you been drinking tonight? And he goes, Mrs. Lappin, I haven't had one beer. Okay, Kevin, enjoy your night.
You guys would be surprised how often he tells me that story. When he sees me.
You don't remember it.
He has no idea. You could be making it up. He can't argue.
I do actually remember this. This is a true story.
Nice. Well, I mean, you guys, Spencer, what do you think? I mean, do you like this?
So
bottle?
my issue with the bottle is, besides that it's a beautiful bottle, beautiful presentation, I don't get a lot of depth out of it personally.
I agree.
I get the flavors, I get the notes for 119. You know, it's fantastic for 119. You can, you know, sip it. You could add an ice cube if you wanted to it. But for me, there's just not a lot of depth to it. I get the brightness. It sits right here in the chest. But for me, it's not a memorable bottle just because I can't pick out specific flavors that, hey, it's kind of like a one note stud for me with the citrus and stuff like that. But I'm not getting a lot of flavors.
For me, as it's sitting in the glass and starting to oxidize a little bit, it's starting to get a little bit thicker on the palate. Like just the texture and the viscosity of it, it's just starting to get a little bit thicker. And if you look in your glass, especially on my Glencairn, like it's got legs for a while. Like it sits on the glass.
It sits on glass,
right.
sits on tongue. I think there's a couple notes that are studs that I really enjoy, and I would go back and for $65 all day. But as far as
not a bad price,
it's not a bad price, and to get something like that, you know, with the proof is fantastic. But just compared to some of the other things that I've had, just depth wise, it doesn't do it depth wise for me. Not saying it's not a fantastic bottle, but that's just my thoughts.
I think for a $65 single barrel,
Can't do better.
Well, what I'm saying is, I think people that are gonna want to spend $65 on a single barrel product, whether it be a bourbon or a rye, orange or citrus notes being that prominent, like the main focus, I don't know if they're going to gravitate towards that if they know it in advance.
but it is unique. So
It is unique.
that's-
It is unique, and you'll never be able to have this bottle again.
It does linger like almost like a Listerine. I mean, that is.
It's got a very
It's on
minty
there.
finish.
Are you getting the minty stuff out of it?
I'm getting the minty, and more you guys talk about citrus. I mean, have you guys ever had I don't know why anyone buys it, the like citrus Listerine, like the orange bottle?
Yeah.
I've not bought it. I've seen it.
Yeah, you
never
don't
bought it.
want to.
Is it orange flavored?
It's like a mint.
Like Tic Tac?
It's
like a
sort
orange
of,
Tic Tac?
but like that's on fire. You know what I mean? Like, so
Did you get any cinnamon off this or not really?
I do get. It's like a cinnamon mint. It's something like, again, it's mostly like the sensation on the tongue that's just like right in the middle of it. It's not straight up cinnamon, but
No, it's more of a mint.
Yeah.
Like I get on the finish. A little bit more minty on the finish, but like I said, on the nose, very, very bright. I'll pour for him so that way he doesn't get distracted by the squirrel.
what?
These two have been playing hand just things
I
up
mean,
under
I'll
the
tell you
table all
what.
the time.
Tell you what.
You know, like when I was thinking about it, when I was getting into this glass, you know, that coming across a little bit thicker than when I first had it. It reminds me of Steve, that bottle that I brought into the shop to share with you after we closed up Saturday night. So that Wise Man Rye.
Oh yeah.
So I absolutely loved that bottle that night, and then I had it again, I think Monday night. Tasted completely different after that bottle had sat open for a day.
You gotta be careful because you have like 5 cigars and then they're trying stuff too, man. That's gotta affect it a little bit.
Well,
It'll affect the palate a little bit. That's why we try to take a sip of this before we get started, anytime. And I just got a message, that Kristen says like, oh, so I picked out citrus Listerine. Great. Not necessarily. I mean,
I would have never said that if I knew she was listening. To
I-
be fair.
See, I'm with the citrus all day long. I'm not getting the Listerine.
You're not getting the
I'm
burn?
not getting the mint.
Really?
Honestly, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again,
okay.
it's not. So I wasn't saying like the cinnamon or whatever, but that I don't know. Maybe it's just my palate, my tongue right now. But it's like a slight.
Wow.
Again, when I say Listerine, it's like a mouthwash with the alcohol content that actually leaves like a tingling sensation.
Yeah, I don't mind that personally, just because it's bright, it's a nice night and
this
stuff like that.
would go great with a Laurentian Reserve.
It probably would. So no, it doesn't taste like citrus Listerine. I was trying to compare it with that.
Yeah, just a note. Yeah.
I
guess she'll
like
have
it.
to Venmo again, and that's just all there is to it.
I mean, it's not like
That's a win for you, guy.
Better luck next
I mean,
time.
she didn't distill it. I mean,
That's the thing. Yeah.
I already said it's a gorgeous bottle.
So Kevin, they have distillers and things like that, and they also have reps for different cigar companies. So it is difficult when you have the person, the purveyor of the product on here, and you have to critique it. When we're talking about a bottle, at least when I'm talking about it has nothing to do with the person that picked it out or anything like that. It's just your honest opinion.
What's the contents of the bottle?
Right. It has nothing to do with a personal. I've picked bottles that people don't like, and it just is what it is. But it's not a personal attack on anybody.
And again,
this time it is.
This time definitely a personal attack. Jesus. No, but I mean, that's part of the show is that, obviously we're trying things that we've never had before. So this is for anyone that is listening out there, is that this is something that all four of us have never had before we cracked this bottle. So
you said you had something similar to this, not this.
Yeah,
not the single barrel.
We had the Restoration Rye that also came out in 2021.
What were the ratings on that?
It was 101 proof, 3.5 year. This one's 119.5 proof, 4 full year product.
And a single barrel, where I think that doesn't have to be necessarily a single barrel.
Yeah.
I guess I'd be curious.
It's a small batch, most
Nate,
likely.
I don't want to hear it now if you have, but do you know what the ratings were for that?
I can try and look it up.
I'd be interested after we do the ratings if we had the comparison, just out of curiosity.
I don't know if you were writing it down back then. I do like the story. I like the history with the distillery. I'd love to go see Castle and Key. Again, just the fact that was the H. Taylor, it was just the historic building, the effort that went into it and everything like that. What I'm finding, just because we're on that Marianne Eves part 2, is that what I'm starting to see, and I don't know what you think, Spencer, Capes, I know you're getting more and more into bourbons and everything like that, is you're more of a Scotch guy, tequila guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Wine guy.
Yeah, this is a very, very unique experience for me.
Okay.
If I drink bourbon, it's going to be a Woodford. It's going to be
some staple
Bullet,
ones,
something like a mainstream commercialized.
So bourbon. What I'm finding, that's a good thing. I think telling you, Capes, getting into it, it's starting to be a little bit of a slippery slope on the price range of some of these efforts that everyone's getting into, as we are hopefully not hitting the peak, but it's still climbing the bourbon boom. Like some of these single barrels, like $65 is not that steep compared to what else is out there on the market.
What do you said it's still climbing. How high do you think it goes?
I don't know, because there's still some of these distilleries that are pumping money into expansion, not only from a tourist standpoint, but from a production standpoint as well. I mean, we're talking millions and millions of dollars going into these things. So the everyday stuff that you're talking about, like Woodford and all that stuff, Bullet, those are those like $20, $30, $40 bottles that you can get all day long. But some of these projects they're doing, I mean, I like love Watershed. You were drinking a glass of Watershed that I had in my house, Spencer. That was a $99 bottle, I believe.
Yeah, the 5 year.
5 year. That's $100 from a local distillery, and it's great. Don't get me wrong. It is. I love that bottle. And then some other ones. I mean, you're looking at like these $60, $70, $80 price tags on single barrel products by smaller distilleries. I mean, that's a slippery slope that all of a sudden, like the bottle that I won to buy, I ended up just securing it on the phone today.
Okay.
So we can sort that out. But the Marianne Eves,
that's a small
project,
batch.
Small batch with a black label from Watershed, and it's $150. Now, and I'm just like, what is going like where does this go from here? Because I really hesitated to pull the trigger on a $150 bottle that I've never had and
locally,
of course, local.
Well,
and it's like, okay, it's Marianne that did this. I like the single barrel that she picked. It's a great bottle. I like what Watershed's doing, but I'm like, $150, like.
$150 is a lot, and I obviously, because they just drew that lottery this week, last week, I haven't tasted that, so I don't know what it's like. I know, like, all their single barrels that they do are $60, which is a great price point for what they're doing.
You're looking very similar to this Restoration.
The one good thing though with something like Watershed, because you and I have had so many of their products, especially their single barrels, we really enjoy a lot of their products. So. Yeah. If you're gonna spend $100 or $150 on a bottle, it's a little bit more comforting knowing it's coming from a distillery that you really enjoy their stuff. Well,
and I've been impressed with Marianne's picks so far. I'm happy with this one. I mean, again, we're picking it apart a little bit, but I mean, overall, for Spencer said $65 or whatever it is, it's a good bottle. I mean, and again, not a terrible price tag. What I'm saying is like this $150 price tag on a small batch that a local distillery. I like supporting them, their business. I like supporting Marianne because like we've had great experience with her and her products so far. But it's just, I mean, again, 150. So the next bottle's 200. Like, where does it stop?
Are you paying for exclusivity? You're paying for great marketing? You're paying for conspicuous consumption? what is?
I would assume it's a little bit of all of that because if it's got her name on it, not just the barrel pick, but this is like
okay.
So it's got her branding. Her new branding, Kevin, is it's all black. So she does
Black
this
on black.
Eve's Blind. Her last name's Eve. So it's
The
Eve's
marketing. It's unique.
It is Eve's
Yeah.
Blind. It's gorgeous. It's like a
Sure.
subscription quarterly shipment that you get these very exclusive small bottles of that quarter's selections that she's worked on. So it's a very cool product and project that you will have a unique experience with.
It's supply and demand too.
This is what that bottle looks like.
Oh wow!
So I mean, it's there, and I'm sure she's getting
It's great.
She's getting a cut of it
Yeah.
for the project. You know what I mean? So it's and her subscription service is not an inexpensive product either. So it is a little bit of, I think, all of the things you're talking about: marketing, the exclusivity. It's the experience side of it. Is that you'll never get this bottle again. So there's enough
collectability. If you could,
Yeah.
they probably know
So
people are going to
supply
try
and
to
demand.
people are going to try to resell it because it's a limited release.
Victoria says it's only 3 tanks of gas, so it's not that
She
bad.
thinks it's 3.
Depends on the size of your tank.
Is she in a Prius or is she in an F-150?
she's in a Nissan Rogue.
That sounds about right then.
That'll gobble up
4
some
Magnum.
Biden gas too.
Well, but we also see the same thing in the cigar industry. Like sometimes we see these collaborations, and these cigars come out, and they'll have a higher price tag than what that brand's normal everyday products are.
Sure.
And part of that is part of it obviously is going to be the rarity or exclusivity, limited production of that cigar, and sometimes it's because of whoever that's being attached to. We've seen cigars that were done with Pappy Van Winkle. Those cigars tend to be a little pricier than that company's everyday lineup of cigars.
They're paying for the name.
They're paying for the
market.
gimmick.
Yeah, we
It's
just
for the
had,
gimmick.
The Espinosa Knuckle Sandwich, which is a collaboration with Guy Fieri. I mean, that's a $15.
Hey, I love Guy Fieri.
That's a $15 cigar, and most of Eric's cigars are coming in like that 10, 12, maybe 13 if you're getting like a Bordeaux. So yeah, it bumps. That price is up a little bit because there is that celebrity backing, and obviously that's another hand in the kitchen. But we've seen some of those where it's a great product, it's limited edition. Sometimes you're like, because of what it is, maybe I'll pull the trigger on it. If it was something readily available, like if you could just go into a liquor store and buy that Marianne Eves small batch with Watershed at $150. Not too many people are going to be doing that on a regular basis.
They do really well with their products, and I assume so is this distillery as well. I mean, you have to find your groove with a swing like that. And I'm not trying to get off topic with the bottle, but if a swing like that for a $150 bottle that's exclusive, no one's ever even tried before, they're going to learn from it. If they sell it out, they'll do it again.
Well, they did a lottery, so
yeah, but that's also part of the whole thing, right? I mean, you could just say it's going on sale today, but they did a lottery. I got an email saying that I won the lottery, and that was just like, oh, you have the chance to buy this $150
Supply and
bottle.
demand, Cape. Supply and demand.
Well, okay, so
It's just one of those things that I looked at, I debated, and as doing the show, we'll probably do it. It may not be a bottle that we kill that night, but it'd be like a bottle that we at least, we do sample in part 1 because we can't get it again.
Well, we saw her single barrel sell out in a day and a half.
Right.
That high bank double oak that you got sold out
10
in
minutes.
7 minutes.
7 minutes.
okay, how many bottles is that? 100, 1,000?
I don't know how
10?
many they have of this one.
I know the single barrel there were 70.
Mm-hmm.
That's really limited.
Yes.
That's extremely limited.
Well, it's single barrel. So literally they did one barrel for sale, and then the rest of that they kind of blended with some of their other stuff in order to do the small batch. Like she was part of the group that picked some barrels to come together and mix it with that single barrel she picked to make this small batch.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so it's a lot goes into it. I like this bottle the more I'm sipping on it. What do you guys think of the Filthy Hooligan? I thought I was weary about when we were picking the bottle tonight because we picked the Filthy Hooligan because of St. Patrick's Day. Alec Bradley Cigars puts this out every year. I don't know how many years they've been doing it. It's probably about 7, I'd say, give or take, years that they've been putting this out. They've tweaked the blend a little bit. You've got a Nicaraguan Habano wrapper with a Candela, which is the green part of it. Double wrap on there. They also put out a Shamrock now, which is going to be a tri-wrap. There's another, I think, Maduro shade wrapper along with that. But they do this every year, and it's medium bodied. I think it's a fairly unique cigar. It's a fun project. It's beautiful cigar. I mean, the way they do the barber pole on it is just fantastic. They take that into the marketing. You see the barber pole on the band. Go ahead.
Is the Habano wrapper on this the same wrapper that's on the regular black market?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
But it's over Ecuadorian Sumatra binder, and then Honduran and tobacco from Panama as well in the filler. So it's a unique blend.
And I thought the Shamrock had that lighter shade as the triple wrap.
I'd have to look at it. I haven't smoked it this year.
So I will say the construction on this is great construction, great draw, things like that. I was a little concerned when we talked about what bottle you guys were going to do tonight, that the bottle would overwhelm the cigar, and I think they stand alone.
That's what I was saying. I
don't think that's happened.
Yeah.
So no, it's surprising.
I think that
was a concern each of the last 2 weeks with the bottles that we featured, given what the cigars were. One was a barrel proof single barrel rye, and the other one, but that was a 95% rye. And then the other one was that 127 proof, a single barrel Elijah Craig. We thought initially both of those were going to overpower the cigars, but the cigars had enough flavor.
This one's doing the same thing.
So so obviously it's a beautiful setup with the barber look, and you just don't have that. Had you done this as a giveaway at some of the events before? At the tent event?
The tent event, I think it was the first year we did the Filthy Hooligan. I know we did it for certain, but it was not the barber pole.
Okay, but I just
Candela wrapper leaf.
Initially, when they did the Filthy Hooligan, it was just a straight Candela.
But it was one of the things that people got one of these cigars at the tent event years ago.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a unique project, and then they switched it to this barber.
So I guess I need to be educated a little bit, because recently I've been gearing more towards the Nicaraguans of the world, and maybe it's just perception versus reality. But when you say Panama, when you say Honduran, stuff like that, when you say Ecuador, what are they known for? Different flavors than Nicaragua?
I couldn't tell you. So yes, different regions you'll have some different flavors to it. I don't know about Panama. I don't know how. I haven't smoked even like a Purito. I don't know. I personally don't know what you're getting out of that part of it. I think it would bring some uniqueness to it, which is what this has, along with the double wrapper on it. And I did look it up. It's basically the same cigar, the Shamrock, but it adds a Nicaraguan Habano Maduro on top of that. Yeah. The marketing behind it, just so you can see the picture, you guys.
Great.
Super cool. All green.
That's kick-ass. Absolutely.
There's a Shamrock. So, I mean, they do it's a fun cigar. It's a fun project.
What was the other wrapper on this one besides the Candela?
Nicaraguan Habano.
Okay, so the regular black market is Nicaraguan Habano Maduro.
Okay. And then they have the black market.
How much is this one a stick?
This one's coming in around 12.
And what size is this?
Toro, 6x52, I believe.
Yeah, 12 bucks for a Toro. I mean, it's a great everyday cigar for $12.
Comes out once a year.
That comes out once a year, and you get the uniqueness of it. Case, what are your thoughts on it? You're a cigar guy.
My versatility in cigars isn't tremendous. If I'm on a golf course, I'll smoke a Rocky. I'll smoke a Punch. I'll smoke some of those. If I'm having a scotch on my patio, maybe a Padron, maybe a Diamond Crown, maybe an Ashton, something like that. This right off the bat, the visually, I was intrigued. And then as I got into it, I do agree, and I'm not anywhere near as knowledgeable as the three of you are. I do agree that neither one of these two overwhelms each other. I think, as I mentioned, you went for it's a very good pairing. I would normally go something maybe a tad more full body.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember
with this drink or just in general
with a cigar. I remember, and this is probably going back to maybe 08, 09. The first time I saw a wrapper like this, I think Rocky
does a straight Candela.
It was like a purple label or something like that. So I had visually seen this before.
There's a Candela in his edge line, like his core edge line that he does.
This is years ago.
Yeah.
Tell Jake to bring one.
Still do it? Okay.
Yeah, he still does a Candela.
Yeah.
Fuente
Cigars.
does an 858 Candela. LFD does a double Claro.
That's
a Candela. Asylum, Tom Lazuka is going to be at the 10 event here in a couple of days. Tom Lazuka, they do the Ogre, which is a year-round available release, and that's going to be a Candela as well. But that one's got a little bit darker Nicaraguan wrapper on that one.
Yeah.
What is Candela? I don't know what that means.
So that's the green wrapper.
Okay, so that's just the color and that's just the leaf itself of that wrap, because you don't see a whole one just wrapped that way.
Yeah, you do. So like the Fuente 858 LFD double Claro, the Rocky Edge
There's
Claro.
still chlorophyll in it.
Okay.
It's still green.
Like it was a Rocky Edge
from that.
I think it might have been.
Okay.
This is coming from the Plasencia Honduran factory, by the way.
Yeah.
which, I mean, I don't know if you guys are as familiar with Plasencia.
I like Plasencia.
Yeah.
This is a really good smoking cigar. I take this to the golf course. I would take it. Yeah, this is
This is limited to
the worst cigar I ever had was great.
Which is interesting. We're having this kind of more limited stuff. We're talking about limited stuff. This is once a year. They do 2,000 boxes of 24 cigars. So it is fairly an exclusive annual release. So again, I think
crazy. It's only $12, man.
Yeah. I mean, but again, I don't think so. On the flip side of that, what we were talking about earlier, so Plasencia themselves just released an annual cigar that's new to the States. There was 2,500 boxes of 8 cigars.
Wow.
And that's the Year of the Tiger. So they do a Zodiac now. And that was coming in at $40 MSRP. So the other side of it. Now, that's what I was saying with this being 4 years, the bottle, I don't know much about that Marianne Eves, the black bottle we're talking about. When I'm paying that kind of price, the most important part, in my opinion, is that you enjoy it. You're not disappointed.
Yeah.
Like when I smoke this, I enjoy it. This is not a go-to cigar for me. If it was readily available all the time, I don't think it would be their top seller. The fact that they do it in an exclusive manner,
novelty,
annual, there is a little bit of excitement. There are certain shoppers that are going to be like, oh, you got the Filthy Hooligans. How much is a box? And they smoke them all year. You know what I mean? They'll smoke a few around the holiday, St. Patrick's Day, and then they'll like hopefully make it last until the next year.
Or you get guys that are coming in February asking you if you got the Filthy Hooligans. Like, wait till March. Like, it usually ships in March. You're a month early. Like,
yeah. My point is that it's part of that. You know what I mean? It's like a bottle you can't get again. You don't want to kill it in a night. Sometimes it happens. You know, like if you're with friends and you're celebrating. Sure. But it's nice to be able to take a sip. And then if you know it's going to be an annual release type of a project with a bottle, like this is like this year's special bottle, you sip on it until next year's releases. I enjoy that part of it.
Nice.
Thoughts on the cigar itself, other than just it's a good cigar? Anything?
Well, so because I remember when they were doing just the straight Candela on this, and outside of the rarity and the marketing of it, Candela is one of those that it's a very niche clientele that likes Candela cigars. It's not a flavor that all cigar smokers are going to enjoy. They're just a small portion of the market enjoys that type of flavor because it's a very unique flavor profile because that tobacco is not aged.
Grassy.
Some of them are grassy, a little bit more hay. There are some that like there are some that are just a little too young and they come across with a little too much ammonia on them. Alec Bradley, they do a good job at actually aging theirs enough to get that ammonia.
I was going to say, I feel like it's mellowed out a little bit. Yeah.
Well, and so that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why I like when they start doing this barber pole, because then it wasn't a straight Candela. You still had that Nicaraguan Habano thrown in there. So it was kind of like taking that black market and mellowing it out just a little bit. Like you weren't trying to completely kill the flavor of what made that cigar good, but you were just tweaking it a little bit to change the flavor and give you something different. So that's why I actually like that they do the barber pole rather than the straight Candela, at least on this cigar, because if you like Candela, it gives you that flavor that you enjoy. If you like the regular black market, even though that one's a Maduro, this one's just the Nicaraguan Habano, it still gives you that flavor that you're used to from the black market if you enjoy that cigar. So it's just kind of a marriage of those two, just kind of blending them together.
I think the original release of the Filthy Hooligan, when they did all one Candela wrapper, I don't know if they did it because they had the idea to change it and they wanted to do the barber pole theme. But I know that the response from at least customers that I spoke with after they smoked it, and myself included, it was like, yeah, it's a cool idea. I probably wouldn't buy it, again. This one has had a lot better reception, I think, and it is because it's not overwhelming with that Candela wrapper. I think
you can have this cigar with a lot of different things.
Correct. I think it pairs well.
Right. It pairs well with anything. It can stand alone. It doesn't overwhelm. But if I was just having this cigar by itself, I think I would want for a little bit more. I'm similar to Kevin, where if I'm going to have a cigar, I want it to not hit me in the mouth, but I want it to have a little bit more depth.
A full-bodied Maduro, something.
Yeah, but when on a night like this, where we're going to have more than one glass of bourbon, it goes just well.
Interesting. Nate, is your mic all right? I see some comments here.
That's why I'm asking. Like,
see, I think when you're not talking into it, it's very directional. There you go.
All right.
Hey,
Trying to fix
we're
it.
good.
Thank you.
We want to hear what you have to say here. Want to hear? I mean, you can turn it down a little bit. Kevin, have you had this cigar before?
You know what? I recognize the outside of it. I'm gonna guess yes, but it's possible that I have not. I thought that you gave it away at a 10 event before, which is I've never purchased it.
Okay.
I think I have.
I don't recall if we've done the barber pole one. I know we did the original one. That was years
Maybe
ago.
That's it. That could be it.
It was years ago. It was like year 2, I think. So again, you're going back 7, 8, 9 years. I don't know what. I would think that they would do a 10-year anniversary for it if they do hit that 10-year mark. I think it sells well. Again, you're not really with doing 2,000 boxes of this one, and I think it's like 1,500 boxes of 10 of the Shamrock. You're really not putting a whole lot behind it, as far as the actual release. But I think, like, for example, Tinder Box, where we work and that's a sponsor of the show in Columbus, Ohio, like 20 boxes, I think, of it. So 20 of the 2,000 or 2,500 boxes. I mean, that's a good chunk. And I assume a lot of other shops put in as many as they could. Because, again, it's something that even after the holiday, you can put it out in your humidor and it still stands out. And people may not know what it is. And it is a gimmicky catch of your eye, And, again, if you have the brand recognition of the Black Market from Alec Bradley that does very well for them. The Black Market Esteli does very well with them. They just did another run of the Black Market Esteli Black Diamond, the diamond shaped one that does really well. So they're utilizing the Black Market name that has been a good seller for Alec Bradley. And then on top of that, you make it a bright green box that looks cool. And then it has this kind of like tough looking,
I have this with the Guinness all day, man.
Right.
It's kind of like what you alluded to.
That's a good point.
It's kind of like what you talked about last week with Doug and the McFly. Like the packaging on that cigar, like it stands out. And, depending on the market, like it's going to draw some smokers to that cigar because of the packaging, because of the design, the look of the cigar. People are going to look at it and go, well, that looks different. I'm going to give it a try. Yeah. And, you talk about like they don't put a whole lot behind it. They don't really need to, because it's people who know the cigar know it's a seasonal release, right? And they seek it out every single year.
Yeah. So they've got a following.
Yeah. They're going to do a limited number of boxes, so between the two, they're doing 3,500 boxes and they're going to sell out. Yeah. And sometimes in the summer in the store, we'll get customers coming in like, hey, you guys have the Filthy Hooligan? Like, sorry, we already sold out. Like,
yeah.
So they create a market for it.
Yeah.
And if you're in a shop, like, tomorrow we'll highlight this one for anyone coming in for St. Patrick's Day. People come in looking for something. We'll probably put this in, like, we'll sell a
charge double.
Yeah, this is a $25 cigar tomorrow.
Yeah. Now, since it's in such limited quantity, do they limit the amount of boxes a cigar shop can purchase of them?
So the way I believe with this release, just like a lot of limited ones, it's actually they allocate it by territory. So Alec Bradley, Ryan Ponist, who is now, he just got a promotion. Congrats to Ryan Ponist with Alec Bradley. He's now the business development manager, but he was his territory. Like he would say, like, all right, so you get whatever, 150, 250 boxes that you can sell to them all. So I think it's up to them to kind of say, well, they're like, hey, give me 50 boxes. Like I can only sell you 10.
Sure.
Because he wants to spread it to the shops that support him. B, that they know they've got great customer fan base on that cigar that you're going to sell. Like you don't want a shop to say, hey, give me 30 boxes of the Filthy Hooligan, and then St. Patrick's Day passes and they're like, so can you trade out 20 of these boxes of the Filthy Hooligan? It's just, there is an allocation, I think, but typically it's going to be based on how the company allocates it to the reps, not necessarily you can only buy 10 boxes of this.
That's what the company I used to work for did. They would allocate by territory, and if you didn't sell all of your allocation to your territory, but other territories sold out of theirs, they might take whatever you have left and give it to someone else's territory.
Yeah, or if the first round, if I'm a rep, I could say, I'm going to limit to 10, and then kind of see what I've got left, because I'm looking at my overall number of accounts that I have. Do it to 10. And then, in 3 weeks or whatever, I hit all my accounts. I can go back to one of the accounts that wanted more. Hey, I got 5 more boxes if you want them. But I think you don't want to just sell all 100 to one shop, because then you
Makes
have
sense.
the exclusivity and all that stuff.
Or especially if it's someone who's like a wholesaler or a distributor.
Right.
Yeah.
I like this cigar. I think it's enjoyable. It is unique. Again, I would say I probably am not gonna myself buy a box every year. If it was a regular release cigar,
About a 5-pack.
Yeah, I do a 5-pack for sure. Yeah, but I mean, this cigar, it's enjoyable. It's got a little bit of uniqueness to it. I am very pleased that it stood up, and it almost has a subtle sweetness creeping in for me with this, at least with this whiskey. I have not smoked this cigar this year on this release until tonight, so this is a first time for me this year. But I think this is going really kind of well with it. I don't know. I mean, it's standing up. I like what you said, Capes, is that this is something you'd smoke on the golf course, because it's
No
enjoyable. It's good construction, good.
It's not
Good
too
draw.
overwhelming. Good
Yeah.
price point.
And for $12 after a bad shot,
You can
How
you
many
could
times-
punish the cigar.
How many times are we smoking cigars on the golf course and it's hot and humid? You got to relight it 6 times. You lay it in the grass and
this
it's
is
just all fucked up. I mean,
doing
this
well.
is, you hit a bad shot and you fling it in the lake. I don't hit bad shots. He does. But anyway, no, I agree 100%. No question.
Yeah.
All I hit are bad shots.
yeah. So I did add. I know where they're getting to the point where you're going to do, but I did add a
Yeah.
smidge of water to the Castle and Key, and it opened it up a little bit for
Yeah.
me, man. It opened it up. I don't know. I just got a little brightness off the Castle, but adding just a smidge of water to it, just to pare it down a little bit. I got some different notes and mellowed it out a little bit, calmed it down a little bit for me.
I put a really small amount in mine
Yeah.
here.
So Kevin, what I like to do is add not necessarily ice, because ice kind of kills the flavor, but if you add just a little bit of water, you can get it to the proof that you want. But
Like a fingertip drop or how much?
yeah, like an eye drop.
Okay.
But sometimes a little
Should
bit more
wash
than
your
that.
hands.
That's going
Mhm.
it's going to taste
Well, you
like.
don't have much
but-
in the glass though, so that probably
It should,
is.
yeah. We'll,
Yeah.
we'll-
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
opens up. The reason we try not to add ice, if you can, and Grant, I like just a bourbon on the rocks just fine, is sometimes it kills the flavor as the ice. That's why they serve shots chilled. But if you add just water, you still get the essence of it without killing the taste of the drink itself.
That makes the finish a little hotter for me.
Does it
Like-
really?
Like a little bit more that mint and cinnamon on the finish. It kind of
So
Like I said, it opened it up a little bit for me.
I'm with
Yeah.
you, Nate, on that, because the second pour I had or whatever, like that had started like as my palate got used to it. It wasn't as prevalent. I just added a drop of water. It's like you say, it brightens it up a little bit. It brings back some of that mint and like that sensation. It did change it, but it
Enhanced
like-
it.
yeah, it enhances it, but it's not like overbearing.
Yeah.
it takes away some of that thicker mouth feeling that I talked about earlier. Like as that glass sat open, it started to get a little thicker on the mouth, and adding that drop of water kind of took that away, and brought back some more of that spice and that alcohol on the finish.
For the first time, and I understand I just did a little drip of water. It's probably a
Mhm.
placebo effect. For the first time, I'm tasting that mint
You got
that
it.
you
now.
mentioned like a half hour ago.
So
I
maybe it
was-
did open it up.
I was citrus and vanilla the entire time. I finally
Now you're-
am where you were at.
And
Yeah.
sometimes when
Yeah.
like I always joke with these guys, but they're like trying to find like dried fruits and plums and dates and prunes and all that stuff. And if someone says, like, "Oh yeah," you're like, I get that sense too.
It's way beyond me.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
So, Capes, I know you've listened before.
Yeah.
For those listening for the first time as well, this is where we do the rating. So you've got basically out of 10 being the best. 10's the best. Out of 10, you're going to rate the whiskey. So that's the Restoration Rye single barrel that we're drinking. And then out of 10, you're going to do the Filthy Hooligan from Alec Bradley. And then out of 10, the pairing. And what
Okay.
you think, where you put that.
No rules to how you
I was
do
going
it.
to say, do you want to go first? Or you want to listen to
I want
someone?
to go probably first,
Okay, get after
and
it.
that way you
then.
guys can see how off I am.
I like that. Courage.
Confidence.
Courage.
Yeah, confidence.
This is reverse psychology, preemptive strike. I've already lowered your expectations, so now I might say something smart.
You know how we
But
were
if I
worried that
don't-
he'd
But
have
if I
to.
don't, you expected it anyway. So the hell with
We
it.
already brought a shot.
You know how we were worried that you'd have to be like, how do I go left or right? You're just dead at it.
He's not talking to us the rest of the show.
He's talking to you.
Let me blow up the screen for you. Here
Yeah.
so you get,
If I could get a focus close
Yeah.
up.
there you go.
You know.
You're the
I-
1 second from the right on the screen there.
I would give the cigar itself I would golf course cigar to me, as I said, a punch, a Romeo, something like that. I would give it probably a good solid 7, maybe 7.5.
Okay.
As far as the rye, it was very good. I am so inexperienced with rye. It'd be unfair for me to really grade. It was very good.
You can't puss out. You got to give a number.
8.
8.
Fucking 10. Mark it 10.
Yeah.
Mark it 8. Dude.
Mark it 0, dude. Mark it 0.
Mark it 0.
Over the line.
It's definitely not a 0.
Over the line.
All right, now the pairing.
9. 8.
Are you asking?
8.5. Good. It worked.
All right,
All right,
8.5.
cool.
He said 9, 8, and then he zeroed in.
Nothing
on,
was too overwhelming. It
okay.
didn't contrast. It didn't contradict. It went
Yeah,
well.
we talked
It
about it. I
meshed
mean,
well.
a pairing, it's either, there's different ways to look at it. Obviously, it would be a bad pairing if it makes, both of them taste worse. Pairing, like a lot of times with food and wine and all that stuff, is like, does it enhance it? Or, sometimes I like the pairings that they stand up next to each other. I can still taste it. I enjoy the whiskey. I enjoy the cigar, but they didn't really bring anything out from the other. Spencer, how about you?
All right. So, I was explaining how the rating system works to Capes kind of before we got here. And I was like, man, they kind of always start at 8. He's like, oh, yeah, they start at, I go, yeah. And I go, why do you guys always start at 8? You're like, well, we're trying not to give you shitty cigars or shitty whiskey.
Exactly.
So,
He did say that. We did say that.
We've definitely featured some bottles that were.
I understand,
8.
but it was very few 5s and 4s and stuff
The
like
bottle's bigger question mark. That's the wild card there, is because cigars typically we've smoked before. Typically, unless a rep's bringing a first time.
So I get the mint, I get the citrusy part. First off, the presentation I think is phenomenal.
Yes.
But I kind of like the minty stuff just because you don't get that too often. So for me, it's a unique flavor that I just don't taste too much. So for the bourbon itself, I'm going to give it a 7.8. That's, for me, that's not bad. I understand.
Specific too.
Yeah.
I like
He always does that.
Yeah. On the cigar, it's a fine cigar. There's nothing wrong with the cigar. It's a beautiful presentation. Cigar itself is a 7.5.
Okay. So
And
we got a 7.8. We got a 7.5.
Right. And if it didn't have the barbering, I just, the flavor of the cigar for me are just not what my palate loves. Now together, I actually think they go well together. I think that the bourbon stood up by itself. I think the cigar stood up by itself. So together, I'm going to go 8.2, just because I do think that these two can go well together. And I do get the full flavor of the rye, and I do get the full flavor of cigar, which a lot of times we don't get.
Now, when you said you like the barbering, is that a taste thing or is that an aesthetic
thing?
Okay.
This is,
it is for me as well.
I mean, we've smoked hundreds, maybe even thousands of cigars in our life.
It is for me as well.
Yeah. So aesthetically, I'm like, you're right. It's intriguing. It was something that I wanted to try when I saw it. When he broke it out, I was like, I'm looking forward to trying that cigar. I know what the Monte Cristo tastes like. I know what the Romeos taste like, but I'm looking forward to this. And because it's a special release, here's also the thing, Kevin, is that we are very spoiled amongst this group with the amount of bourbon that we get to try, with the amount of cigars that we get to try. But that's my thoughts on it.
I want to point out here, so that people, like, we're talking about the barber pole look of it, right? So there's different ways you can do this, but I wanted to show you guys. Unfortunately, we don't have the camera good enough for this, but I don't know if you guys know how they do this.
I was going to ask, but
but look, if I pull back,
I would not have guessed
that pinstripe, if you will, of the Habano wrapper, that is laid upon the full Candela wrapper.
What am I looking at here? You said,
so you see, I'm getting the light here for you. When I pull back, so it will start fraying a little bit when the burn line gets to it.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not saying pull it back because it'll change the flavor. There would be essentially, I could likely at this point on mine, because I actually did use my fingernail to kind of pick it up where it was starting to come up. I could probably pull off the rest of this, the wrapper leaf, the Nicaraguan Habano.
Okay.
I could pull the rest of that off of there, and I would venture to guess, but I tell you, it would change the flavor profile.
Yes,
completely, because now I'm just smoking with
you think
that
you
Candela.
Get that much flavor just off the wrapper?
It does.
You do.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what percentage of flavor do you think comes off the
wrapper?
wrapper?
Full Candela, but then it just has that.
Debatable.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You think it'd be that different?
I hear mostly from most people that the majority of the flavor, not saying vast, but the majority comes from the wrapper.
Yes.
Because it is the most flavorful typically part of it.
Because
Strength
of the
and everything
fermentation, the age.
Yes, and it's so the
Okay.
a lot of the
I
strength.
thought more of
is
it
still,
came from the filler.
I still
A
believe
lot of your
that
strength, I think, comes from the filler.
it
But
is-
flavor wrapper.
It depends on the cigar.
It does.
Right. So if you're using and again, no expert, just an enthusiast that, it's my life. But it's the fact that if you're utilizing a lot of Ligero, which is at the top of the plant that gives it strength, you'll get flavor from that. But if you did an all Ligero cigar, it's very kind of bitter. Right. On the other side of it, the Viso at the bottom of the plant, it's somewhat combustible. It doesn't really have as much flavor, but right in there in the sweet spot, as you would imagine, the Seco part of it is combustible, but also a bit more flavorful, and a little bit of strength comes from that. If you have a lot of Seco in the filler, I am of the opinion that you get a lot of flavor from that. If you're utilizing a lot of the lower and the higher part of the plant, you won't get as much flavor from that.
Where do cheap cigars use more of the top or the bottom?
I would imagine they use more of the bottom, and it's not necessarily cheap, but because
the bottom leaves are going to be bigger because
Yeah.
they're at the bottom. They have to actually expand
Yeah.
and get bigger in order to be able to get some sunlight, but they also get a lot more nutrients from the soil than all the other leaves above them.
and the Ligero, the strength comes from the sun's nutrients, right? So that's coming, and then the most plants will be a little bit smaller leaves as you go higher up on the plant. But point that I'm trying to make there is that the way that they constructed this, I wanted to introduce that because I'm looking at this, and I've never done it with this cigar.
Did you retrohale that at all?
Every time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nate, what are your ratings there?
So on the whiskey, the rye, I'm going to be an 8. I do enjoy the bottle. Spencer alluded to it earlier. For a single barrel coming in at almost 120 proof, it doesn't have the depth of flavor that you kind of expect with something like that. Like I said earlier, it's very bright. Get those citrus notes, the vanilla, the oak. There's almost none of that caramel that you would get from a bourbon. It's got great color. It drinks really well. It's just the flavors that are there, those citrus notes. Like most people don't tend to buy a whiskey because they like a citrus flavor, citrus forward flavor.
A little redbreasty.
Redbreast, yeah, something more like it kind of more like an Irish whiskey because of how bright it is. Yeah,
Yep,
good call. And I think part of that is because they went with a lower rye content on their mash bill and had more of that corn in there. It just doesn't come across as bold as like 2 weeks ago when we had that Nashville Barrel Company straight rye, which was
Right.
95% rye. They were slightly different on the ages, but
I love Nashville Barrel, by the way. They are up and coming, man, and they're gonna blow some shit away, man.
Cool
Yeah.
program there.
So yeah, I'm an 8 on the whiskey. On the cigar, I'm a 7 on the cigar. When this cigar comes out, I'll typically smoke it because I want to smoke what that year's release is. That way when someone comes in and asks about it, like, oh, is it any different than the year before? Is it the same old barber pole from Alec Bradley?
Yeah. What was your number on the whiskey? I'm sorry.
8 on the whiskey, 7 on the
7,
cigar.
yeah, okay.
And yes, Spencer, I did find our ratings from when we featured.
Oh, wait till Steve does his, yeah.
But no, I mean it's an enjoyable cigar. It's not necessarily something I smoke a lot of when they're in the shop, mainly because it's limited. I know people are going to come in and want to buy it, so try and sell it rather than smoke it. At one point there towards the middle, it's gone away, but I got some bitterness around my lips, and that was probably maybe I pulled out some tar on there, but that went away. It's a good cigar. There's nothing that really wows me about it. I kind of almost prefer if it was a straight Candela, but I
Peel it off.
no thanks. But I do also like the balance that the Habano wrapper does add to it.
Yeah.
So
you like Candela though, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I'm the weird guy in the shop. I like Candela. I like Cameroon.
Farm boy.
Were those related statements?
Yeah.
The weird guy in the shop and what you like?
No.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm the weird guy in the shop. I also like Candela and Cameroon. So
I'm the weird guy in the shop because I like.
Hey, I'm a Connecticut guy. Not everyone likes Connecticut.
I like Connecticut as well. Most of the people in the shop like Connecticut.
Okay.
But no, yeah. I remember when I was a rep, it was a hard time trying to sell Cameroon to the Tinder Box because most of the employees that worked at the Tinder Box at the time did not like Cameroon tobacco, and I absolutely loved Cameroon tobacco. But yeah, so everyone's a little different.
Sure.
Pairing, again, I'm going to kind of fall in line with you guys. I'm an 8 on the pairing. We talked about it before the podcast. We were a little worried that a rye coming in at almost 120 proof was going to overpower this cigar because Steve and I have smoked other prior year releases of this cigar, so we know what that candela and this being a medium body cigar, we kind of knew what we were getting into with the cigar.
Yeah,
being 119 single barrel rye, we were a little concerned that was going to be too strong, but because the rye has more of those citrus and oak notes rather than the caramel notes that you would get from a bourbon, they actually stand up to each other quite well, and they go together. All right.
I'm going to say this about the Castle and Key projects that we have on the table here. Unfortunately, the one that we did on a previous show is empty. This is a bottle that, marketing wise, story wise, everything else, I want to have on my bar. I want to have it because of the look of the bottle. It's some, in my opinion, top notch marketing and packaging. I mean, it's they expose everything on the label. They've got the story on the label. It is a gorgeous bottle.
Isn't there a ton of stuff on the front label of what we're drinking?
On this one, yeah, I mean, it's got the information. It's a beautiful,
it's a sexy bottle.
It's a very sexy bottle, and it even says, if you notice Castle and Key, Spencer, right there in there, and then underneath you've got the logo.
Okay.
I mean, they've done every pretty much inch of this bottle has some sort of.
It's their own bottle. It's not just someone else's bottle
right?
that they've converted.
And then they have the story of what they're doing on the bottle on the back in the fine print. And then they give you full disclosure of what the mash bill is.
If I saw that on the shelf in Ohio for $65, I would buy that all day.
Especially for
the I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm saying, not even knowing the story. So that being said, I mean, this is something that I would probably buy again to have.
I would too.
Right. This is something that, Capes, you come over and you're like, what I'm not always drinking bourbons, you know what I mean? But like, what should I try? I would say even, hey, look behind the bar and tell me which bottle you want to try. This might stand out just because of how
probably
beautiful.
Gravitate.
You're going to look at this and be like, is that any good? And I tell you, it is good. It's different than a rye, but you're not a rye guy. You're not looking for the traditional stuff. So that being said, I'm going to give it an 8. If it was in a very plain and ordinary bottle, it would probably be closer to 7.5. I mean, I'm talking full package. You know what I mean? So objectively, the juice inside, I'm going to give like a 7.5. The bottle itself, with the whole package,
10.
I'm giving an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really do. This is something I would buy again for $65 if I was down in Nashville and I knew this bottle was almost empty on my bar. And you're one of those people that have, 50 bottles of bourbon or whiskey or whatever.
It kind of goes to what he was alluding to with, like, for him, this probably tastes kind of like if Macallan was 100 proof.
Yeah, you're Scotch.
It is.
You're a Scotch guy here. I have this single barrel. Now, I will also say that I have faith in this company that the next single barrel will taste different.
Like barrel bourbon.
Like barrel bourbon, they do the batches, right? And then you also have one that
once a year.
I talk about, like New Riff.
Mm-hmm.
New Riff is I won't even say up and comer, but I mean, people know New Riff, especially in this region. I've had, I think, 3 or 4 different single barrels from them. They are very unique, and I have really enjoyed 1 out of the 3. The other 2 were okay.
Yeah.
Like they weren't really
you and I talked about that a while ago.
not really my thing because they're true single barrels. So they're going all out with that. So the next single barrel from Castle and Key, that's the other thing for me, because I like everything I said, like the project, the company, what they've done, the packaging, like the passion they're putting into it. I would give the second single barrel I found 6 months from now, I would probably pick it up to see.
Oh yeah.
I'd say, all right, where is this coming out of? Barrel number. Oh, I had 1480 last time. This is whatever else. It's not the 1480 barrel. I'm going to pick it up to see what they did with that one.
Well, and you also got to remember they're one of those distilleries.
Why they picked that one?
they're one of those distilleries that when they opened up in 17, 18, they weren't sourcing whiskey and selling it. They were literally sitting on money waiting for it to age. They didn't make a gin or a vodka. They didn't source whiskey from other distilleries. They literally made their product and sat on it. First batch, this one right here, they sat on it for 3.5 years.
That one's a rye as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you guys had their bourbon?
I don't know if they have a bourbon.
They only have ryes?
I don't know.
Okay.
Where does it find that out?
All right.
Again, this is all new.
All right. So what do you have on the bourbon, Steve?
I give it an 8.
All right.
Give it an 8. The
Cigar?
cigar, it's an 8. It's saying. I mean, I've already kind of said it. I'm not going to totally reiterate, but I mean, I would not buy the cigar on a regular basis. I like this is something that I think, from objectively the tobacco itself, the cigar itself, it's like you said, Spencer, it's a fine cigar. This is a good cigar. The construction's good.
It's a good cigar.
It's coming from Plasencia. I love Plasencia. It's unique. It's got that, tobacco from Panama. It's got the Candela. I'm not a huge Candela guy. I'm glad I actually looked at this and how they actually constructed the wrapper leaf on there. I would, maybe like this blend a bit more if it was a Habano wrapper with a Candela that was striped on top of it.
You think that makes that big of a
Flavor-wise,
difference?
I do.
Okay.
Because you got to figure this wrapper leaf that's the barber pole on there, the Habano, it's on 50% of it, where the Candela is on 100% of it.
I got you.
Right. So you
Interesting.
change
Yeah.
that ratio, it might change the
You're right.
cigar.
You're right. I didn't even think about that.
I'm of the opinion that I probably would enjoy the blend more if they took a different route to it. So 8 and 8, and the pairing, I'm with you guys. I'll give it an 8.5. I think the pairing, it goes well together. If we had another bottle of this and we were all getting together again, we wouldn't smoke a cigar. Like, hey, let's have a couple glasses and then light up. You know what I mean? Because I think, I'd like to try this.
Don't tell us what to do.
I'd like to try this.
Is this
Venmo at
is this
Bourbon and BS.
foreshadowing to the next show?
I don't have another bottle of this.
Steve's used to being the boss.
I like when you take I like when you take control up here. It's a big turn on for us.
There we go. That's a good lead into part 2.
Hey, yo.
No, 8.5. I think this one, I was like we mentioned, I was nervous about the cigar just getting destroyed by this bottle, and it didn't.
Yeah.
If anything, it kind of went well together. The cigar, I think, was enhanced for me at least. That I got a bit more of the sweetness. I didn't get as much of the grassy and hay. I think the 119.5 proof probably muted it a little bit. And I think what we're talking about with those sweetness notes, you keep saying citrus, a little bit of sweetness on that, but also with that kind of the sharper mint finish that does go away as your palate gets used to it. I will say that. I think this all goes really nicely together. 8.5, I think, is a good pairing. I absolutely love that we have a single barrel limited release from Restoration Castle and Key, Restoration Rye from Castle and Key, and I love the fact we have a limited run of a cigar as well going together.
Can I make a suggestion that I've made on one of the
Absolutely.
One or two of these? Okay, so and Nate, I would like to hear what the ratings were.
Part 3. We're gonna do part 3.
No,
now?
I would like for you guys to do a bottle that's easily accessible for the other states, where we give it ahead of time so that people can drink the bottle and smoke the cigar at the same time. Give everyone advance notice so everyone is drinking, everyone's smoking the same thing at the same time, because no one can. I mean, people can listen to this and understand the bottle, but they can't have the same.
So I like that.
Well,
same
what
connection.
do you suggest?
Well, I'm just suggesting that, hey, on the week of
Old Crow.
Well, it's funny
Just
you say
anything.
that, but I've talked about recently about, in the future, I would like us to start doing a series on the podcast where we just go in a liquor store and buy something off the bottom shelf and give it a try, because it's still a whiskey, it's still a bourbon.
We've done the
It's
bargain.
all Nate
out
classic.
there.
That'd be really cool. That'd be
But it's stuff that you're going to find in every single
that
state
people can
pretty
drink
much.
along with it.
Let's maybe work on that for maybe once a month. Try to get.
We'll plan it out.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we try to do, and I mean, we're not huge on YouTube, but I mean, it's nice that someone said it on, I forget which cigar it was. They literally searched a cigar. I don't know if it wasn't the McFly, because it's on YouTube, but it was something that it was a new cigar that someone brought. And when they looked it up on Google, we were like the only YouTube video that had done it.
Heritage.
I don't know which one it was. It was recent, but it was something that like they were like, yeah, I looked it up, and you were
the Monte Cristo Espada signature,
something like whatever it was. I'm just saying that would be cool. It's nice that when when you're doing that thing where you're looking up a mash bill on a bottle, like if you come up as that's a lot of fun to be that show that does that. But I agree with you. Like once a month, we try to like 2 weeks in advance be like, hey, I don't care who the guest is.
Ray can get a hold of it.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's in Vietnam. I don't know about that, but
he's a Scotch.
How is that my problem? I mean,
he's here. He's
yeah.
coming.
I'm saying where everyone
tomorrow.
Can get perfect.
But I like that idea. I think it's a fun thing. So then we hopefully get a good live viewership that night. That everyone's got the bottle and got the cigar. I think that's a lot of fun.
I agree.
Yeah,
especially now everyone can have a cigar outside when the weather gets a little warmer.
It's getting nicer.
Like yeah. All right, cool, man.
All right,
so
that means
what were the ratings before on it?
Oh yeah.
All right, so for this whiskey, we were all at an 8. Spencer, you were 7.8. So we're all right there around that 8 mark. Previously, when we had the small batch 3.5 year, Shannon, who's in the garage, he gave that a 9. I was at an 8.5, and Steve was at a 9.
Wow. So you guys like the small
Dustin
batch.
was here for that, and he gave it an 8.7. So we were all 8.5 to 9 on that one, and we're all an 8 on this one.
Now, what did you smoke with that one previously?
We smoked an Oliva V.
Oh, that's a great fucking cigar.
Our pairings were all 9 and 9. Our pairings for that were all 9 and 9.5.
So it went well.
Yeah, it went very well together.
All right. That being said, go ahead, Kevin.
No, I bet that paired well.
Yeah,
I'm familiar with the Olivas.
I do want to round out part 1, and I've got a couple comments during the intermission with Ray and Sean Anderson, who are both coming from out of town.
My man.
Yeah, Sean's coming
out
up
of
from
state, out of country,
out of continent.
But I do want to thank you guys for the support. I'm going to comment on some of that stuff here in the intermission briefly, and then we'll get into the topic that you guys brought tonight, Kevin and Spencer, taking risks. And, I want to hear what you guys have to say. These guys have been doing that recently in their careers, especially. And I want to hear what you guys have to say about that. So that's going to be a fun part 2 beyond the BS. But to round out part 1, I want to thank you guys for listening. We'll do a quick round out here. Patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast or Venmo @Bourbon and BS. Patreon page makes it really easy. $5, $10, $25 a month. You guys have been great supporters. We've had some people on there for several years now, and we appreciate that. I mean, it really does help because the services we use like StreamYard, Libsyn to put the podcast out on the audio. I mean, those
we're gonna have to get some raffle prizes.
Yeah, I don't have to buy as many.
Keith's had a good year. We should give him the link.
But I mean, like the propane during the cold times, all that stuff. It helps us just to do this mostly for fun and interact with you guys. We love that. Charlie's out there. He's been on the show on the comments for the last several, I want to say, months now.
Yeah.
And seems to be enjoying the show. Love the interaction with you guys. Able to do that. But also the buyjack.com. That's probably been my most fun / a little bit difficult. It's tough.
Tedious.
It's tough to design with a designer that is states away, and you're saying, "Hey, what color are you going to use on that? Hey, let me see that design when it's all through
Milan
text."
Fashion Week. The man's busy.
No, the guys that do that at buyjack.com, I mean, they do a couple of comedians. One that's really recognizable is Pauly Shore. They do a lot of his gear.
Mm-hmm.
So he's back out on tour. I mean, I know he's the Weasel from back in the day.
The Weasel.
But there's a couple others. But I mean, like they're doing they want merchandise, so they're amped up for that. But John, who I work with over there, he's been fantastic. And I feel like he's ready to just next text I send him or the next call, he's like, you guys aren't big enough. Like we're done here, but he's been really, really good and been worked with us very well. Spencer's wearing the Focus on the Silver Lining shirt in the black and gray. It also comes in a red and gray. We're from Columbus, so that's kind of like the OSU colors. We got the 3/4 sleeves. So right now that's going to be available in currently 2 color schemes, soon to be 4. And then we've got the podcast shirt, which none of us have on tonight. But, I mean, we have that podcast shirt which says, pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. That's in 4 colors. And right now you can still get that in the Kelly Green. That $10 from each purchase go to St. Baldrick's Foundation. And so I will be posting all of that. So that donation and the pink shirt donation I'm going to be sending those in, and we're going to get that because of some of the kinks we've had, we haven't gotten all of the
I get a lot of comments on the pink, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
It's a fun shirt.
Yeah, it's a
I
fun
mean,
shirt.
it really is a
Looks
fun
good
shirt.
on
And
Spencer.
All right. Thank
not
you.
only is it pink, but then like people look at it and they read it and they're like, "What is that?" You know what I mean? And it's fun to be able
It's
to
for
say
a good cause.
it's for a good cause, and it's for a show, a show that I listen to and I'm on a lot. So it's people like that. I think it's fun. So thank you very much, and also obviously Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. The big Smoking Tent event's coming up, and then also Altadis USA. We're going to be lighting up the Romeo y Julieta after this, the Clemenceau, and then also BS Cigar Company. The Gold and Silver are available. Love it. Guys, thank you very much. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Happy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Cheers. Kevin, thanks for coming to town. Love having you in town.
No, appreciate the invite. I've been looking forward to being on the show for a while. Glad we're finally doing it tonight. Having a lot of fun, and we're just kind of getting started here.
Here we go. All right, guys, quick intermission. If you're listening to the audio, make sure you click over to part 2, and we're going to be talking about taking risks. Taking risks. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. So they haven't been recording for the first hour and a half, but this is where now we start recording.
All right, so I do want to comment real quick. You got Sean out there saying, "Hey, Ray, how do you like that? Make the bottle fancy and suddenly the price isn't as important." I'll say that's why I gave the rating the way I did. The juice I gave a 7.5.
Yeah, you did say that.
So I get what you're saying, Sean and Ray. I mean, because I do talk about that $65. I didn't bring up in the ratings as much, but that was one where I'm looking at that. Normally, if this was it's not a bad bottle. You know what I mean? It's a good whiskey. I like the product, but I do think objectively that the packaging and story do amp it up. If this was a $90 bottle or $150, like we were talking about earlier, that's why I brought some of this stuff up in the show. If this was a $150 bottle, I would rate it lower because I don't think for a 4-year product. Like, I'm not paying for your guys' restoration of that old distillery. Like that's what I feel like I was doing. I wouldn't do it again is my point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're like, all right, our first product's gonna be $150, I'm like, I get it, man. You got to pay back the bank to do all this stuff. Like you sat on this distillery and all the juice and everything for 4 years without making any money. Nate, you brought up on that the fact that they didn't do the gin, the
vodka
quicker
or
spirits
source
to make money. They just went all in. I'm still, unless it's a fucking great bottle, I'm not going to pay for your restorations. I love what you guys did, but that's on you guys.
Based on how I. Pardon me. Just do it once. But no, based on our when I went over the ratings of the 3.5-year rye, that was the small batch, and you said that was coming in just a little bit cheaper.
You can hand me that bottle too. Well, our guests are
which one?
The one that has stuff in it.
But no,
or do you want to save this? No.
But no, based on our ratings of that first restoration, which was for those playing the home game, was episode 178. That is a bottle that even if that was because you said that one was about 65, the new one, the single barrel
65, yeah, I think.
And then the regular restoration was around 50.
I think they were similarly priced. Yeah.
The
Louisville, Nashville also is different.
The small batch 3.5-year, this white label for those watching, that is one that we would buy over and over because that was very, very enjoyable. And we smoked it with a full body cigar. That Oliva V is a very full body cigar.
Correct.
And the cigar is great. The whiskey was great. And our pairings were 9 and 9.5 between the four of us that episode.
Yes.
So very high ratings on that whiskey and with the cigars. This one, I think, being just that little bit higher price point, but also being a single barrel, we may have been expecting too much from it.
That's very possible.
And it may not have necessarily lived up to those expectations. Still a great bottle, but if both of these bottles were on the shelf here in Ohio and say they were within $10 difference of one another.
Yeah.
I'm buying this small batch rye, not because it's, $5 or $10 cheaper, but because we liked it more.
Yeah. No, I agree. And to the point, it's funny, Sean's like, yeah, I knew it would get him going. No, the actual bottle itself is identical. It's using the same bottle, just different labels on it.
Yeah.
So again, I mean,
Probably a batch though, right? It's a bunch of barrels put
yes. Yeah, Sean, too bad the show ain't Friday night. I have some bottles none of you have had.
Show's fucking Friday night now, guys.
I think Steve's gonna be a little busy Friday night.
Yeah.
It's not all about Steve.
I mean,
It kind of is.
it's all about you guys. That's why they're all coming into town.
Yeah, that's right.
I have a feeling I'm going to see some people in the next few days.
How many people have you normally had at the tent event?
This is average right now. So
Wait,
we peaked
when was the fire marshal? How many people did
2018. We had sold out
300.
Yeah, so we sold out of 300 when it came to the 2018.
So might get close to 250. 300 was a lot.
300 was a lot, but it was so interesting.
We could go outside too.
Luckily that day,
we had
it was 60 degrees and sunny. We had it was a lot of fun, the ride that we've had in different ways with the Smoking Tent event, because it grew very quickly. But it was interesting that in 2018 we had sold out 300 tickets almost 4 weeks before the event.
Yeah.
I think people have taken a couple years off.
And that was the year that the fire marshal came in.
Allegedly.
No, it did. And we learned from that year. And that was actually, I mean, it's the biggest after party.
Are there different rules this year? What we have to do?
No, so there is
grease the palms.
We're also no longer limited to 6 hours like we were the one year.
We
it kind of clears out.
So we figured it out where now so in Ohio and in Columbus, there is a subcode of the fire code, right? And the way that works is that for what we're in is a tent or membrane structure that is larger than 12 by 12 feet. And so there's this whole list of things that you cannot do. One of those things in the subcode is just flat out, period, no smoking inside of that structure.
Okay.
There's a lot of other things that they already looked
change
at
with all the outdoor seating and stuff like that with COVID and everything.
So all we've had to do since then, and including this year, is we've had to put a separate application in for our event to work with the fire department that we get an exception for the smoking part of it.
Cutter.
You got cutter right there.
Oh, my bad.
So we
like yours better.
We get an exception for the smoking part of it based on how many fire extinguishers that we have and all that stuff. As long as they know about it and that we have communicated, we also have to file a separate application for our day in the event, that it's not just part of Fido Irish Pub's event.
But you think we're good to go?
We are. I know I got an email, and even it was even in 2020 before we had to cancel the event, 5 days before the event because of the beginning of COVID pandemic. We had just put in our second application for that because I talked to the person in charge at the time. I was like, hey, we're good to go this week, right? And he's like, oh, by the way, you need to do this one more application. I was like, oh, cool. So we sent in that and the check, and then the next day we had to cancel it. It was beautiful. But this time around, luckily we have a good connection with the fire department. One person that is of that part of the fire department is a customer of ours.
This is shocking. That's all working out. See?
Yeah. And then Lieutenant Fowler is now Captain Fowler. And he is, once you get the attention of that person, and they start responding to the emails, like, they're very helpful. They really are, because they know what we're doing. We've done it before. So it's we got everything. Even on Monday, he sent me an email that I didn't see right away. It's my day off, but I got an email. And by the time I looked at the email, there's two of them. One saying, hey, you sent in the wrong application, and you actually sent in Fido's. And then like 2 hours later, he's like, never mind, I saw yours. You're good to go. We'll see you on Saturday. It's like perfect.
Like, whoo, close one.
Yeah. So we're good. And again, they aren't out to necessarily bust people. They want you to have a safe event. I mean, honestly,
makes sense.
I mean, we have a lot of firefighters that are attending the event. They were there the year the fire marshal came in. This is something that they want things to go smoothly. They just have to enforce all that stuff for safety.
Get it?
So the fact that we have that, it's like, even the fact that we have like wooden cigar boxes as ashtrays, they're like, we know you're not going to light them on fire. It's just like, we want to know what you have there. We do have to have a fire marshal as a fire watch that day as well.
Fire Marshal Bill?
No, Joe.
Joe.
Be Joe, most likely.
Okay.
But yeah, all ready to go. And for those that are live right now on the intermission, or if you're listening after the fact on the audio, this will not, or on the video, this will not be on the audio. We do have general admission tickets available for this Saturday. Please contact the shop and reserve it. It's going to be a fucking blast. Really will.
It always is.
Always is. And if you're worried you don't know anyone going, I know that can be something that I don't have anyone to go with. Trust me, you go in, you find a seat, you will have at least 5 new friends.
Agreed.
Yeah, Spencer, you're welcome to come up with Spence and I. I'm sure. I mean,
Don't. If I don't know you, don't.
There's a guy named Brad Harvey. You'll love him.
Harvey. You'll hear him.
I'm sorry.
Try not to bother the staff because they're going to be busy doing other shit.
I have questions.
No, if you
I need
guys have
answers.
questions, ask us. I mean, that's what we're there for. So it's going to be a lot of fun. You guys ready for part 2?
Part 2.
All right.
I don't know if I'm ready, but I'm here for it.
There we go. Where are we at here? 1:30. All right.
Good cigar, buddy.
That one?
Yeah.
I think I've had this one.
Did you guys have some of this whiskey?
Sean,
What are you drinking there? Coke?
Oh, Hazara.
No, you can have. You want some of this before it goes? Yeah. Save some for
Stop.
Shannon
Oh.
there.
Whatever you want. Yeah.
Shannon, go get a glass.
And then I'm going to start this while we do that. Ready?
Nate, do we have a backup bottle?
Well, we can either bring the backup bottle I had, or we have that 127 Elijah Craig from last week. No.
What's the backup bottle you
We
have?
are not upping the proof in part 2.
Or are you willing to
All
share
right.
whatever your backup is?
All right.
I got to work tomorrow, guy.
So do I.
I think we all have jobs, Kevin.
It's not about you, Spencer.
I'm out for this.
Well, hell,
Don't
Craig,
touch it, don't touch it.
Crane, man. Let's just bring out the Elijah Craig. Fuck it. We'll take a risk.
Oh, Caves is hitting. I love it. That's like a perfect.
Starting to feel comfortable.
It's finally. Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 212. We are a day before St. Patrick's Day. We are looking forward to some celebration. I know we got Kevin Cape still here in the garage, and he's in town from Pittsburgh.
Correct.
Pittsburgh, PA. He used to live here. Before that, you were in L.A.
Grew up in Cleveland, moved down to Columbus for my first job, went out west, came back to Columbus, went to Pittsburgh. Early 2017, I
I was
think.
going to say 4 or 5 years ago now.
It's been a quick 5.
Yeah,
It has
so-
been.
I've known Kevin for quite some time. We have Spencer still in the garage as well. Repeat.
This has got to be 18 or 19. It's just got to
I
be.
think it's like 5th or 6th.
At some point,
You
I'm
guys
like a
wanna take guess?
jacket.
Do you guys want to take a guess on the actual number? Because I looked it
I
up.
said it was 18 or 19.
Is it over 20?
No.
All right. I'm going to say, what'd you say?
Am I legal?
Hey, no, you make your guess. And I'm going to go
I
price
said
is
18.
18. I'm going to go 16.
This is Spencer's 19th.
Ah,
Woo!
you win
You
the
were right.
showcase. You win the showcase.
Yeah.
I can drink in Canada.
Spencer's been on, huge supporter, good friend, and has known Kevin. I call him Capes. So if
I bet you 30 years.
Yeah.
Went to high school with him. 4th, 5th grade. You moved from Shaker
Shaker.
Heights or Beechwood. Yep.
He was dated for a while.
That didn't work. Turned out to be great friends.
Still off and on.
That's nice.
Friends with benefits are a nice thing as you get older.
Needless to say, we tease each other when we each have cigars.
You
We get
love
Oh,
teasing
my.
each other.
So this is this is part 2. It's Beyond the BS. Nate and I are here as well, even though maybe by the second half of part 2 we won't be.
We don't mind if people watch. It's great.
the show.
We
show.
we,
We don't-
we encourage it.
We don't mind it. We don't mind if people watch the show.
Perform better.
It's
Kevin.
It's a good.
Little exhibition.
Oh man, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be kind of a
First ball sneaks up on you.
Let's get that 127 going. Yeah.
So that was
No.
119?
What do you got?
Yeah, Steve's like, you know what? We're gonna get on a bottle,
Yeah.
let's not go with a higher proof for the second bottle. I said, fuck it, let's just take a risk.
All right then. Here we go.
Yeah, we're out of time.
Thanks for joining
Closing
us.
remarks.
It's a great part 2. What do you guys think? Taking risks, not this one. Or we could. I mean, we can. I
I look at them as calculated risks.
Calculated risks. All right. So this is the part of the show, if you guys are listening for the first time. First part, we do a whiskey review. We do a cigar review. We talk about those two things, what we think of it, and we enjoy that. So tonight we have we're still sipping on the Castle and Key Restoration Rye single barrel that I picked up down in
Pass it
Louisville.
to Steve. Let him kill the rest of the bottle.
I will be happy to do that.
Great bottle, Kristen.
Yes, and so that bottle is by way of Kristen, and we appreciate that. She happened to use the Venmo at Bourbon and BS. That's a way that you guys can just shoot us a little bit of cash or whatever that we can, if you want us to pick out a certain bottle, or if you're like, hey, this is for a bottle in this price range, whatever you want to send, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever. If you guys are super generous and you send more and say, hey, pick out 2 bottles, whatever you guys can find, or just, whatever it is, it's great. So that's going to be Venmo at Bourbon and BS. But yeah, thank you very much to Kristen. She actually picked out this bottle when we were down in Nashville, and she called this, this reminds her of the Great Gatsby. Is the marketing behind that. That's what she thinks, is that it's a little bit of like
beautiful.
Gatsby.
I like it.
It is gorgeous. Black and gold. It's fantastic. So we appreciate that. Patreon.com/BourbonBS podcast. That's another way you guys can contribute every month. If you want to do a one-time donation, we've had someone do it on the Patreon. Venmo's easier, less fees, still have to pay the taxes and all that stuff, but it's less fees on that. So it's nice if you're going to do a one-time donation, hit us up on Venmo. But the biggest thing for you guys, we would love to have you guys do is to share this. I mean, get more people involved. Spencer had a great idea towards the end of part 1 about the fact that maybe once a month we get a everyday bottle, everyday cigar that we post a week or 2 before that on the Bourbon and BS community page and the Bourbon and BS page on Facebook, Instagram as well, that you guys can join us that night if you set that date aside, especially as the weather's getting nicer. So definitely share it, like it, review it, all that good stuff. We're also on YouTube Live as well. And for those YouTube listeners, don't have it up here, so I'll check the comments, see if anyone's on that one live as well. But we do stream live on both, and the audio's on all your favorite apps, like iTunes, Spotify, and everything else. Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Big event coming up, Smoking 10 event. Check that out. If you guys have not gotten your ticket, you want to come to it this Saturday, March 19th. The general admission still available. VIPs are sold out. We have over 200 people coming already. We've got about 13 or so companies coming. We've got Eric Espinosa coming. Laurel Tilley from Macanudo, who's been on the show before, and also Tom Lazuka, who owns Asylum Cigars as well, is going to be there. And then reps from countless others. It's going to be a lot of fun. The buffet they put on.
Lamb chops?
Lamb, crab cakes, chili. I mean, it's all across. It is. I saw a video of Jason in the kitchen at Fado. I forget how many pounds of lamb they got, that he's just in there smiling. His fake smile.
He's killing lambs.
He's slaughtering. No, he's chopping up the cuts. But no, we're happy. He said, this might be the last year if the prices keep going up. We don't know if we can have lamb again next
Burgers
year.
and hot dogs next year.
Yeah, here's some Franks. But yeah, also thank you all to this USA. You just lit up the Romeo y Julieta. You got the Clemenceau, which I love that cigar.
Yeah, thank you for the cigar, by the way.
It's a great cigar.
It's
Great packaging. They changed it with the white and red instead of that silver tube. I think it's great. It's fantastic. And thank you to Josh Bentley for helping us out with that sponsorship. And we hope to continue to work with them and get that support from them. BS Cigar Company, Gold and Silver are also available as well. Taking risks.
One question, clarification. The Bourbon and BS Venmo, that's something we can Venmo you some bucks. You're out and about, you snag a nice bottle of bourbon. You ship that to us?
No, that's for us to review. I'm sorry.
Okay. I
wasn't sure. Support the show. I'm sorry. Yeah, so that's to support the show.
Understood.
If you know us and you are in an area that you don't have it, that's through the community, right? So I would encourage you. You're on Facebook, right?
I am.
So the Bourbon and BS community page is 1,500 plus members strong.
I'm in that. Yeah.
If you guys are on Facebook, join that. It's not your typical, nothing wrong with it, but you're not your typical cigar or bourbon group. It is an extension of the show. Strong community. I'm talking about we've got Bobby Hirschman, Corey, and Scott. They're coming from Philly for the event this weekend.
That's great.
They know
They had
The Tinder
McKellen's
Box.
the night before, out of curiosity.
Sunday, I think.
They
might go
They
Friday,
might make
Sunday.
Sunday.
Bobby said they're coming in town Friday, and I think he's going over to Amy's on Friday night.
I can't do it. I was saying Sunday fun day at McClellan's. But anyway, so like we have this community, Capes, that if there is something you're looking for, it's not a community page where it's like in search of for trade, secondary, but it's people that you will meet. For example, we have Sean Anderson in Tennessee, Ray Cheshire, who now lives in Vietnam. They have become tight through this show and the community page. They're going to meet for the first time at the Smoking Tent event here in Columbus on Saturday.
Fingers crossed. So excited.
They're both married. I hope they hit it off, though. So, yeah, the Venmo to answer your question.
Money's on Sean.
To answer
Your brain would go that direction, wouldn't it?
Okay, so the answer, no, it is to support the show, right? So
Cool. Yeah.
what I would love to do is that, if you're able to make it, you want to be a guest like you are right now, Capes, like for prime example, a month ago, hey, I'm looking to come in town. I want to be on the show if you got room on the schedule. Hey, yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'm going to Venmo you because I can't pick up this bottle where I'm at. You can bring a bottle or you can Venmo us and we can have you on the show with it and review it with you.
Sweet.
Or
Man, there's so many
I do
possibilities.
Patreon where they take $5 a month and it goes to kind of just helping support the show, different levels of it. Years past, just donated.
The nice thing
some
too is
gear
that
and stuff like that.
if you're a
to the show.
Patreon member too on the buyjack.com/bourbon and BS, you actually get everything at a discounted rate if you're an active member as well. Yeah. So I mean, we try to make it's
This shirt's normally $100 and they only charge me $75. It's a steal.
Bobby Hirschman says Sunday at Amy's place. So if you're in the Columbus area on Sunday, if you want to have a Sunday fun day,
They have Crown.
Philly
Do they have any
style.
Crown there?
Oh, when he's coming in town, they do.
Yeah, she buys an extra case.
All right.
I don't know, but he sounds like my kind of guy.
He is your type of guy.
Yep.
Like Ray says, who's Kristen? And right after that, Kristen's watching.
What a first bottle, though.
She will be at the 10 event as well.
Nice.
All right, taking risk. We already have account Brad, who is also he is actually a Columbus firefighter and he listens to the show. He was on with Eric as well. They brought their own whiskeys that they had been messing with, which is a great show. They will be there on Saturday. But he says, topic question, and we'll get into this whole taking risk thing. Because I put it as like taking risk and think big, small, different aspects of life. I mean, there's a lot of different things with taking risk and what leads up to it. I mean, there's a lot of emotions and factors to take into consideration when you're taking a risk. It can be a small one, talking to someone, talking to a new customer, go back old school, talking to a girl, if, Capes, you moved around a bit. Spencer, I know you've just gone through a transition in your career. But Brad asks, and I'm going to put this on the table as well. He says, when do you think taking risks moves into chasing stupidity? So we can include that in the conversation as well.
Kevin?
Well, I
we don't have to start with it. That's a tough one to start with. But
it's a great one to start with, too.
Get after it.
I think all risks need to be calculated. I think you need to a goal without a plan is a wish. If you're chasing a wish, that to me is abundantly risky. If you're chasing an attainable goal, however, you have a plan to get there, whether it's relocation, whether it's investment, whether it's networking, whether it's maybe sacrifice, then I think that moves into the realm of calculation, at least to me.
Yeah.
I think risks in general are stuff that for me personally, it's not necessarily something that I chase. It's something when it's presented, when you get a fork in the road, take it. Is my view of risk.
But you we're constantly chasing success, and with that comes a bountiful amount of risk.
Sure. In order to achieve greatness, in order to achieve success financially, personally, things like that, you have to take a certain amount of risk to get to that, to get to the next level, to get to the next point.
So I would say, the stupidity, and we see Sean on there too. But what's the saying that you guys know that the definition of stupidity is?
Stupidity or insanity?
Insanity.
I've heard it both ways, but that what I'm talking
Same
about.
thing.
Constantly doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Right. So I don't think that when you're weighing it out and you're looking for the greater good or what maybe is a gamble, with a risk, right? That is also, I think, one and the same as well. If you have a calculated risk, it's still a risk. It's still a gamble. I mean, this could not pan out the way you want to.
Well, but the question on the table was, what is the difference between a risk and blind stupidity.
Chasing stupidity.
Right.
So my point is that that's why I brought that up of the insanity or stupidity thing, is that if you keep just constantly taking risks with the hope that something's going to finally hit, is there a teetering point where there's a little bit is the safe route? If all you're doing is taking risks over and over again, it fails. Is it the fact you're not calculating, or are you chasing a dream?
I agree with Kevin that you have to have some sort of a plan to take those types of risks.
Yeah.
I was talking with a customer earlier this week, and she has a few kids and is in a relationship she's been with for about 15 to 18 years. And they are basically coexisting in this life. They're kind of ships. I'm going somewhere with this.
They're calling a customer.
Right. And we were just having a conversation about
you got into a relationship.
And people like to open up to me, Steve. So it just kind of
what about sharing their feelings with you?
So where I'm going with this is the way I was discussing with her, it wasn't necessarily that, hey, the grass is always greener.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes people take a risk because they always think that there's something better, whether it's a better person, better career, better location, things like that.
Is that taking a risk or making a change?
So here's where I'm going with it. So the risk that this person, in my opinion, is taking is staying in that same situation, knowing the results. Not that the grass is always greener, but hey, your grass might not be so green where you're at.
Correct.
So by staying there, you're taking a risk just knowing that you got a shitty hand of cards. And do you want to keep playing with that hand of cards, or are you going to trade in those cards for a different set of cards, knowing that, hey, your situation that you're in isn't great? Now, Kevin and I are a little bit more, and you are too, Steve, as far as the entrepreneurial spirit, whereas we want to take calculated risks, but we want to have control of those situations. Now, Kevin has moved a couple of times for work. I moved down here from Cleveland for work and recently started my own business about a year ago. And sometimes the risk, you're not necessarily planning on taking a risk, but the risk is presented to you. Whether it's, for me personally, was, hey, you get fired, you get let go. So you have to take a risk. You have to jump whether or not you want to. They did a study, and it was people that have a major decision to have in life. And it's basically you flip a coin, and the coin gets flipped heads. You have to make the change. The coin is tails. You don't have to make that decision. And the people that were forced to make a change based on just a coin flip, based on chance, ended up having either more success in a new relationship or a new job, new career, just because they were forced to take a risk. So if there's if there's a fork in the road, to take that fork just because it's your outcome, you might not even know what the outcome is, but just taking a different path might lead to a million different options that you didn't have before.
Sure. When you say take the fork in the road, I mean, you're saying take the one you're not sure about?
I'm not saying take the one you're not sure about. I'm saying if there's a chance for you that here's an option that you're not 100% sure, and it's not a stupid decision. Hey, I'm going to make way less money, or hey, I'm going to break up with someone, stuff along those lines. I'm just saying if there's a chance for you to take a better opportunity, most people, from what I understand, if you're on your deathbed, it's not the big things in life. It's the, hey, I didn't go up and talk to that girl. Hey, I didn't interview for that job.
Yeah.
It's those little risks that really kind of change someone's life versus the big one of making a big change. It's the little risks that you take on an everyday basis that people regret not taking those little decisions that could lead to big decisions down the road.
Why do you think that is, that people don't take the little risks?
I
like
think
talking to the girl, like the little regrets that turn into
fear. It's fear of failure.
Yep.
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure, I think, is a big one.
Okay, that's probably the biggest. I agree with you.
Fear of rejection.
Well, fear of the unknown.
Sure.
So fear.
We all agree.
There we go. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Yeah. So it's fear.
Correct.
It's getting out of, like you were saying before we went live. Like Kevin, was the fact that it's the getting out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
So you know what to expect. When you know what to expect, and what you're saying also, Spencer, is that when you citing this study or whatever, it's like the people that were forced to do it, it was a survival.
Survival.
There's a survival aspect to it, is that you don't know how you're going to respond to a change, and you're fearful of it. Change in your life, change in your day-to-day, all that stuff. There is this comfort level of, good or bad, what you're dealing with. So by doing these little risks, by taking those small steps that could lead down a path, could compile into a bigger success path.
And you don't even have to know what that path is.
Correct.
You just have to know that that path is different than the path that you're on, and trust, in our case, Kevin and I are confident in our own ability to make money. Just to be flat out, like, we can
financially successful.
Financially, you can sell cigars, you can sell bourbon, you can sell whatever. We're salesmen at heart, but you have to have that internal confidence that, hey, if the risk presents itself, that you have the personal ability, based on your experience, based on you've been in a field for a long time, based on how to talk to a girl, that you can take those challenges head on, and you can not conquer it, not win at it. And Kevin is a conqueror. I'm not a conqueror, but that you can take those paths and you can be successful.
Yeah.
And for me, I have to be forced into those types of decisions. But once I'm forced into them, it's the greatest choice you had to make, because you're made to make these choices. You're made to grow professionally. You're made to grow personally. And because you're made to do that, you do come out better. And you have the confidence that when that choice happens down the road, you can do it again. If everything
will you be forced to do it again? That's what I always
that's
think
the
about.
unknown. Who knows?
So that's the thing. Is like, do you get complacent until you have that, you survive.
Sometimes sometimes you can coast. Sometimes you can coast in personal relationships. Sometimes you can coast professionally. But if you're forced not to coast, you need to have that, hey, I got knocked down. And everyone's going to get knocked down. It's just a matter of how many times you're going to get knocked down, and can you get back up?
Failure is not final.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one too. And I was also going to say, I think that you have to look at each individual person different. Some people are, I don't want to say born to, I think it's a learned behavior, are perfectly content coasting. They get to their cruising altitude in life, whatever that may be, and hey, this is fine. I think that's don't need to take a
product
risk.
Of your environment.
I think it is too. In my particular case, I watched.
Kevin was brought up by two educators that had, made very good livings their whole life, and you decided to take a little different path for whatever reason. So. Not for whatever reason, but I'm saying it is part of your
uneducated.
I do think it is
self-learned.
Definitely part of your environment, but you can definitely make those choices to take the risk and to, I don't want to say want more, because what people want is very different, but to take the challenge to become more.
I was out on the West Coast about a month ago. I watched a great movie. It's obviously a long flight out there. I watched a great movie. It's called Up in the Air. It's with George Clooney.
Yeah. Lean in a little bit on the microphone so they can hear what you're saying here.
And he was, that doesn't matter, but he did some public speaking. He was a motivational speaker. His analogy was, so what's in your backpack? He said, if you were to leave somewhere tomorrow and take everything you had, your bed, your clothes, your family, that backpack's going to be awfully heavy. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to carry that with you. I was fortunate and still am. I'm in a position, I have very, very little in my backpack. It's not married, no children. I rent. So the reality of
You're
it
very
is,
mobile.
Yeah, you can move with limited risk. And if it doesn't work out, you can chase the next risk. Now, not everybody's in that position, right?
So they're not, but why are you in that position though? That's what you have to think about, is that your other factors of life. It is, but I mean, so you're in your 30s.
Oh, they're on life support. I'll be 40 in July.
All right.
So you're still in your 30s.
Take the compliment.
You're a handsome 30s.
Your liver's in your 80s, but you're in your 30s.
Did we decide what
my liver's deceased. Yeah. My lungs will be too after this
Nate,
podcast.
I'll allow you to make the decision between the Elijah Craig and whatever you brought.
I'll take whatever's in the brown paper bag for.
No, I'm that perfect. Yeah, we're gonna lower the proof to 99.
2 cherry cokes.
Perfect.
And whatever you guys want.
Well, we're lowering it by 10%.
Yeah, perfect. But no, I so this is something I want to introduce to the conversation though, is that the Capes, like, you have that mentality. If you had a wife and 2 kids at this point in your life,
it'd be much more difficult.
There's factors.
Correct. Sure, of course. Always is.
So, Kevin, you left a very good position here in Columbus and you took a risk to go to Pittsburgh. What was in your calculation to basically start up a completely new business, new people, new environment on your own, new city, no friends there, things like that?
Well,
it was a risk.
I have to, obviously speak delicately in some terms, but I mean, I knew I was capable of much more than I would ever have been able to accomplish here.
There's a ceiling.
We'll leave it at that. It was a tremendous ceiling.
No, I think that is part of it, is that, when you're calculating the risk, is that,
Now, I was 33. If I were 50, would I have done it? No, I wouldn't.
A lot of factors there is that, what is your life like? Do you, it's simple things like, do you have a significant other? Do you have a family? Do you have people that are relying on you? If you are a sole vessel right now, you can do whatever you want. If you fail, it affects you. If you take that risk, it doesn't pan out. You hopefully learn, and this is pessimistic. You hopefully learn. That's part of the calculation. Is like, I know that I'm not done and I'm not hurting anyone else. Like, I'm going to take this risk. I've calculated. I know I can succeed, but if I don't, I want to learn why I didn't so that I can succeed the next time. You can always move back. You can always do a different job. You can, there's all of those things out there. When there are outside factors, you're talking about age, right? So it's like, all right, so I'm getting to this point. Like, I'm 55 years old. Do I really want to
energy
start
level?
over?
Do you have the energy level to do it?
Do you have
aspiration, baggage? There's
you say baggage. I'm saying like it's family.
What
do you own a house?
What parameters do you place on yourself?
Right.
Is your fence locked or is it open?
And what is, like, again, we're talking about financial success, right? So taking risks can go the other way. Is that you actually do shack up with someone and you start a family. You have to realize that to a certain extent that will limit other.
That's a risk
parts.
too.
It is. That's what my point.
I was just going to say that.
Like, so for example, like I have a dog now, right? So now me being Tony.
Okay.
So having Tony, if I got an opportunity to get a traveling sales position, for example, that's something that a single person with a dog or like a kid or whatever, it's like those opportunities aren't necessarily available, because it's like, well, with a dog, it's like, well, I'll find someone else to take care of the dog. I'll find, I'll give someone, I'll have someone adopt the dog. If you have a child, if you have someone and you have this like opportunity, it's going to be a risk, but I know I can do it. You have life responsibilities that you can't just take risks the whole life. It's not just about you being able to do that. It's who are you carrying with you, or who are you enjoying life with, is something that I would say, like, Nate, you're married, you have no kids, but wife of how many years?
11
years. Capes, you are currently dating, single, you're not married.
I would fall in the single category.
Okay. And Spencer,
recently single.
Siri interrupted. That was awkward.
She knows what I'm talking about.
No, but my point is that, like, those.
Is Siri single, by the way? Have you ever asked her?
She's available. And I like it with the English accent. I tell you that.
Alexa.
She's available for millions.
So my point is that in this conversation, I love the fact that you guys are able to do this. I mean, there are some reality checks there based on whoever's listening to this, is that what you have. I'm not saying like just drop everything you're doing for a risk. I love the fact that you guys have almost reiterated and harped on the fact that it is calculated risks, because part of that calculation is who does it affect? If it's just you, that's you with either self-preservation by just doing the norm and being comfortable. Sometimes it is that building yourself up. You guys talked about, Spencer, you said it with the sales side of it, is that you have a knack. It's not just a knack. It's truly you guys work on your skill of just working with people, talking to people.
So I think
it's natural. Everyone's
right.
I'm sorry.
No,
people say like, oh, you have a natural ability. Some people, it's a very small percentage that you are just that good at it.
No.
It
It's a
takes
skill.
work.
Yeah.
It takes effort. You cannot just, if you want to zone out and you're in a mode or in a situation where you just like, I just don't want to do it. Like tonight, like I'm not saying this is the case, but I've talked about it before on the podcast. It's Wednesday. I'm fucking fried. I do not want to do a podcast tonight. You do it. You cowboy up and you belly up and you get to that point where you're like, all right, no, this is part of the thing. This is when I work. This is when I work on talking to people. This is when you have a friend that's in need, man. I got my own problems. I can't do it. You really have to hone those skills.
Well, and I think there's a definitive difference between natural ability and a gift. You can be given a gift, but if you don't practice it and hone it and dedicate yourself to it and commit to it, that gift goes away. Right. You can be naturally born to be 6'9", but if you don't work on
being
your
tall,
pass rush or your basketball game, you know what I mean? You can have a gift, but you must work at it, or else that gift it doesn't materialize.
Why does that happen?
Why does what happen?
I was going to say, I feel like it's like atrophy. You let that just go.
Well, yeah.
If you don't work on it,
you have to work on
this
it.
Natural ability that you have to talk to people, that you have to relate to people. We talk a lot on the part 2 of communication. And with you guys being in sales or management or whatever you do with relationships, it's constant. It's communication. It is an effort. It's never 100% just given that you're just like, oh, you're a good communicator. Oh, you're a good, salesperson. It's like, I bust my ass to do this. Like, it is something like, oh, your house is clean. I bust my, like, I'm not saying my house. I mean, you guys been in. I'm not saying that, but I'm like, for someone that like really has their shit together, there's so much effort. They don't just wake up like, oh, you have that personality. Yeah. I wish I was like you. Clean. Oh, wouldn't it be nice? Like if I was like natural with like being a salesperson, or I wish that it must be nice that you just that organized. It's like, okay. You know how much work do you have to put in?
So you're familiar with the 10,000 hour theory?
I'm not.
Okay. So basically it takes like Malcolm Gladwell takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at anything that you do. So it's kind of been reviewed over the years, and it's a little different than kind of the way it's perceived. So it's not just that you have to do 10,000 hours of something. You have to do those 10,000 hours well. If you're,
it's kind of like I had
you don't just go to the gym.
Well,
right.
Like
that's exactly right. You can't just
coach, the saying, practice makes perfect. I had a coach.
Perfect practice.
Perfect practice makes perfect play. If you suck at practice, you're going to suck.
Right. So if you're
just show up.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're just going into your job and you're doing an average job, but you've been there for 10 plus years or whatever the hours is that takes, you're going to become average at that position because you haven't taken advantage of those hours in the right way. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, Capes.
Well, no, I was actually going to say, Steve, you've kind of led us down that path. Take us through. You started a cigar line. I mean, there's risk associated.
I will say, and I've talked about it before on the podcast, is that,
well, not with me, baby.
Well, so no, it's I am like what Spencer was talking about. Is the reason I got in the cigar industry is because it was something that I was interested in, but I got fired after 10 plus years in a career.
It's a good steak dinner we had though.
That's the first time I actually really got to know
those.
But you got into the
Jay Gilbert.
Wood fired.
You got into the cigar business at Tinder Box, and then you decided to start your own line.
But it's all through that effort. So again, it's all through that effort. It's taking something that Brian, who
life threw you a curveball, and then you.
Well, it was the same thing that I feel like that I have thrived to a point. With that, and I enjoy what I do. I enjoy working with and for Brian. So it's still all through that.
No. You missed my question.
I'm with you.
You went over to Tinder Box.
Mm-hmm.
You could have easily worked at Tinder Box, done cigar events, partnered with Fido. Boom. Right. You decided to go the extra step and start your own cigar line. So that to me is a risk.
It is a risk. It's not as much a financial risk because of the way that we did it. I'm not playing this down. Is that it is, and bear with me here. Smoking 10 events, same thing. Podcast, same thing, right? So these are the things like you asked me. Community page, same thing. So Capes, you asked me because we're known each other forever, but it's like one of those things like, so for those that don't know, like Capes, again, lives out of town. So we don't talk as much as we used to. We don't hang out nearly as much because, again, proximity. But it's like when we get together, it's like you catch up real quick, and then it's like no time has passed. He asked, he's like, "Is this podcast? Is this like making you money?" I'm like, "It's self-sufficient. Like at this point, this is self-sustaining." And that is the original goal of this, is that when Jake Sanders and I started this, before he moved away, and Nate's been a part of this since then, is that it's not like we're not, buying cars off of doing the podcast. I mean, we'd love to have people actually share it and really enjoy it and do all this stuff. But it's something that, as long as it's not costing us a lot of money to do this every week, then it becomes this chore, right?
Sure.
Same thing with like the BS Cigar Company. Same thing with the community page. There are these things that you can do that, in my opinion, is there are some risk. Mostly it's the time, because that's the finite aspect of this, is that I would love to be able to monetize some of the efforts that I personally have made, so that Brian and the Tinder Box does better. The podcast is fun, and it's like, why not make money? Like the things that, like, when you guys are doing what you're doing, like, Spencer, you're selling the cabinetry and like all of these beautiful things, capes. You're putting people in jobs. Like, I'm of the opinion, and maybe that's the monetizing part of it is where the shortcoming is for me. It's, yes, there's risks, because I have placed my time in behind the effort, right? So like my time of doing all this stuff, it's like, like today, it's like I wake up, I go to the job at the shop, which I love, and then it's like, all right, I go to the post office after I get off of there to ship packages for Tinder Box. Then I go to the gym and everything. Then I come home, I eat and do all this stuff, and do the podcast. Like my Wednesday's cashed, right? But it's all the effort. That what is the reward? It's not always financial, but I love the fact that, like, you're in the garage tonight and having this conversation.
I do too.
I love the fact that we do this. Like, would it be fun to have 10,000 or 1 million people listening? Absolutely. It may get there, and it most likely won't. But it's the reward is that I love the fact that people actually get something from this. And I've always said it is, if one person comments either on the feed or after the fact, or the person that's sitting in the garage, that after we get off of it, they're like, wow, that was great. That is fantastic. That's the risk that I take. If I did this, like myself and Nate's doing it with me now, and Jake was doing it originally, the BS Cigar Company, it's not a huge money maker. But when someone comes in that I don't even recognize, that asks for, this one right here, I love that one. Someone in here, like BS Gold. I mean, I want like 3 of those. That's the reward. That's fun, because it isn't necessarily putting millions in anyone's pocket, but it's so much fun to do it because someone's enjoying it.
2 things.
Go on.
So one, I'm going to get at Nate here in a second, but so you had mentioned just getting the dog and what that prevents you from doing.
I said it's an aspect,
as an example, right?
As an example.
So you deciding to get the dog knew that it would prevent you.
Who wants to be out here right now?
The benefits of having the dog obviously far outweigh, in your mind, the benefits of being able to just shut the door and lock in your house and just doing whatever you want.
Correct.
You made that decision to do that.
Correct.
So you made a calculated risk of deciding to take care of something that brings you joy and brings you love. That was a calculated risk.
Correct.
Okay. Nate, when we were talking about the just what prevents people from doing things just in general, when the fear piece came up, you were nodding along. Enunciate.
Well, I mean, I was pointing at myself.
Okay.
I've talked about it in the past, and thank you, Spencer, because this actually leads to one of the things I was going to bring up.
Okay.
It's good at segues.
So I've talked about it in the past where
you're 19, maybe.
When I first got out of college, I started a career that I was in for 8 years, and about midway through that, it wasn't necessarily a complacency. It was I wasn't really satisfied doing what I was doing. I knew what I was doing was important work, but it wasn't satisfying me. Eventually I got to the point where I
wasn't filling up your bucket.
Yeah. I just no longer enjoyed getting up in the morning and going to work. And it was
that's hell on earth.
I mean, I'm a worker because I work 2 jobs.
That's a lot of people's lives.
That's hell on earth for me.
I work 2 jobs. I work 7 days a week. So I have no problem working.
You're a worker bee.
I just didn't enjoy. It wasn't just what I was doing. It was also the environment I was doing it in. So an opportunity came up to pursue a passion that I had, and that was being a cigar rep. And so I did my interviews, I got the job, and I took that risk because it was something I really wanted to do. And I also had the support of my wife behind me in actually doing that. She knew I was going to be on the road every week and I was going to be gone Monday through Friday, and she would see me Friday night and over the weekend. But she was a supporter of me doing something that I had a passion for and got joy out of doing the work. People say that, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. That's absolute bullshit. Because when I was a cigar rep, being away from home, that's tough. I enjoyed selling cigars. I enjoyed going into cigar shops and talking to people about cigars. That was enjoyable, but there was also other sacrifices in my life. That particular venture did not work out the way I wanted it to. And for all the years since, from March 19th, 2014, all the way,
long time ago, Nate,
all the way until today, or recently, that the failure of that had always hindered me from taking other risks. However, last week after the podcast, Steve and I had a conversation, and Steve brought up to me that there was another company out there that was looking for a person in that role. It was a cigar role,
cigar rep
on the road as a cigar rep. And I actually
you like cigars.
I do like cigars, but you ask any cigar rep, you got it. Liking cigars has very little to do with the job.
Okay.
But so Steve was talking to me about that opportunity
after
and
a cup of whiskey. So I'm a little bit, as he said.
Oh yeah. Steve was shoving me, to actually,
let me know. I want to interject, but
I do too, actually. What do you mind?
I was going to say, let me know next. I can interject.
I would like to interject.
Hold on. Previously, with your other job, what did you find unfulfilling that you were looking to cure?
Shannon,
with
before you leave,
job?
I'm going to hand you my mic because I want you to talk about your taking risks.
Most of what I was doing in my previous career, I was doing animal toxicology research. So I was doing a lot of FDA and EPA type studies on animals. Which, being a biology major, I didn't mind that. It was more the environment in the company I was working for, especially some of the decisions.
Becomes a job.
It was some of the decisions the company was making. I didn't like working for that company anymore. I didn't like working for the people I was working for anymore. But so anyway, back to the cigar. After the podcast last week. I ended up the next day reaching out to the person who is in charge of hiring for that company because I knew that person. I have a great relationship personally with that person. And I started reaching out to them and asking them about the job, about the territory, about the pay, and weighing everything out. I was sitting there looking at it. If I was in my early mid-20s and I was single, absolutely an opportunity that I would take. I would take that risk, do that, because great reward, not a whole lot of risk because there's no one at home that's going to miss me.
Married for 11 years, you said, right?
Yeah, 11 years in December was 4 months ago was 11 years. If I was a young single guy, that probably would have been a no-brainer. Being in my late 30s, married, the numbers just really weren't there. It wasn't a comfortable enough move for me to actually tell that person, I absolutely want to throw my name in the hat. I absolutely want to do an interview, even though this person's a great friend of mine. Because they actually said they've interviewed quite a few people for the job. They just don't like any of the people they've interviewed. This person actually likes me. They're a friend of mine. They were a groomsman in my wedding. That kind of narrows it down. But no, it was just things didn't.
It's all right, man.
Things didn't line up for me to actually pursue that risk.
Here's what I like about it, though.
I was going to get to it.
Go on.
My wife, because my wife knows, because my wife would love for me to get back into that industry because she knows I have a passion for it. She commended me for actually taking the step to reach out and engage
and
actually talk about it.
You got a good hand. Try to get a better hand.
But honestly, since about 2015, that's been the hardest part. Because
so long ago, bro.
The company, so I got let go from that company in 2014. When I first started with my current company doing door-to-door sales, I actually had a phone interview with another cigar company, and just our personalities didn't match. That person also wanted me to move to Pittsburgh. They didn't like the fact I was married. So like at the end of that phone call, I was like, I literally said to the guys, like, you know what? I don't think this is the right opportunity for me. And so I turned down from even going on. And there really hadn't been an opportunity since then that I was actually interested in, let alone excited. But this one, because of who it was, the company, the person I would have been reporting to, I actually had some interest. And so I actually did reach out and and ask about it, because I wasn't just going to throw my name in the hat blindly and then be in a position where like I do an interview or two and they're like, hey, we want to hire you. By the way, here's what the numbers are. And then go, well, those numbers aren't what I want. Sorry for wasting your time.
So you got a good setup where you're at now. My suggestion is to do that 10 to 15 more times with 10 to 15 more companies and just take that risk. You're not losing anything. You're just exploring. It's a lot easier to find or to take a risk when you already have a secure position. A lot easier.
Man, go ahead.
God damn it, Steve.
I know. It's like I live here.
But it
to the side.
But again, so here's what's interesting.
I'll be over here.
Spencer actually kind of helped segue to the other thing I wanted to touch on, because Spencer, early on, when we started talking about this, you brought up the whole when you come to a fork in the road, take it. The way I interpret that is when you come to a crossroad where you have to choose a path, at least make a choice. The road you end up choosing, may lead to a dead end and you got to backtrack and go another route.
So I was talking about the capes.
It may lead to success, but by at least taking a fork in that road, you're not staying still. You're not staying stagnant.
Like I'm saying, the grass isn't always greener, but sometimes you're playing in the dirt.
All right. So there's two sides. I love what Sean said earlier. Sean Anderson, who's an avid listener, is going to be in town this weekend. We've talked about it before. It's like the grass is greener where you water it. So that is something. So they're not saying that you have to stay where you're at. Right. So one of the reasons that I was really pushing Nate is because on Wednesday last week, he had a rough day.
You had all that. Yeah, no, listen.
I did.
He had a lot to drink.
Those happen. No, but
he also
there's something.
You had a lot to drink.
You're drunk. No, sometimes I do have a little bit of drunk wisdom, which
has led to some great teachers.
Great teachers.
Hell of a logo, guy.
No, listen though. No, part of it is that I see a friend, someone that I'm close with, and he's, you hear this thing where, repeated over, like you keep saying, Spencer, that was a long time ago. It's like he talks about, those days and that he wanted to do that.
The only reason I'm harping on is because I care, right?
That's where I was. So then that day he comes in, I was like, hey, he starts, before the
setting up all the
Doug from Oscar came in. I was like, hey, how was your day? He's like, that was good until about half hour ago. And I'm like, oh, what's going on? And he talked about this, and this. And I'm like, that sucks. And then after the podcast, it was just him and I hanging out, and we had some drinks. And I'm like, dude, you keep talking about like it's not the glory days, but it's like you keep talking about how you want to be back in this position. Right now, I know this company, A, B, C. There was like 3 or 4 companies. I'm like, these people are looking. And the one that he's talking about was one that he has identity with. And I'm like, at least reach out. You got like that calculated risk thing. It's like you want to do this. You can
and
either,
you got
like,
nothing to lose.
That like you were talking about, like at the end of your, at the end of your life, it's like those small things. You didn't talk to that girl. You didn't ask for the interview. You didn't go for that job.
It's not even
like
saying, hey, I didn't think that girl's going to be like my wife or anything like that. It's just taking that opportunity.
Yeah, you do it the right way. Like you're still employed. I was like, just at least fucking like just stop talking about it and do it. And then he texted me the next day and he's like, so this is what's going on. He like this territory, this is what it is, and all that stuff. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like the right opportunity. That's what I said to you, right? I was like, that doesn't seem like the
not
right
the right
fit.
opportunity for me. Like I
Correct.
said, if I was someone like,
but the fact is that you put your name, like you took that first step. So
the next time you do it, it'll be easier.
It might, or the person you're talking about, that person's connected and someone's like, hey, I'm looking for a rep. It's not the biggest, like I want someone that's qualified, that knows what they're talking about. You don't know what's going to transpire by taking that small risk and literally just having that conversation. It's the same shit like with relationships, the same thing. It's like you talk to your friend like, I like this girl, you know what I mean? It's like, just say something. It didn't work out. That's fine. That friend is the same person, that connection and that job. It's all the same principles that once you put it out there, not that you're not happy with your job. I'm not even saying that, but you want to get to that. Ideally, you would like to get back to that, is the fact that you start taking those steps. Now, other people in your network, other people that care about you are now aware that you are interested. Like you're interested, like you like your life. But at the same time, it's like there might be this opportunity that now it's like, when someone's asking, like, hey, do you know anyone that would be interested in like a smaller territory or doing this? And
the door isn't closed. It's cracked.
It's cracked.
It's cracked.
You're absolutely right.
And you said something really profound. You said, you know what? I talked to this guy, yada, yada, yada. And for whatever reason, it just wasn't the right opportunity for me. My question is, do you know exactly what the right opportunity is, or is it more of a feel thing?
When it comes to that, it's more of a feel.
Agreed.
There were 2 aspects of that opportunity that really made me hesitate. And that was, the more I was talking to this person, the bigger this territory got. And like, when it didn't work out in my previous territory, my previous company, I'd always said, like, I will never again do a cigar job where I'm doing 7-8 states. Like, we
don't have to get into specifics, but it just wasn't the right fit for you.
Yeah, but I mean, this same opportunity ended up being something like that, where I have a few states and areas local that I would drive to, and then there's a whole separate territory that I would actually have to fly to.
So the bottom line is,
the size of the territory and where I would be going, I didn't necessarily have a problem with that. It was the numbers. So they're one of those companies where you have a base pay and then you get a percentage. And I can't disclose the numbers.
You're diving specifically. What I'm saying is that the risk involved,
just having the conversation.
If you can sacrifice a little bit of that, like the comfort level leaving financially or the geographic side of it, like, hey, did you want to move to Pittsburgh? I mean, like, it's gorgeous there. I know you're a tropical guy, but I mean, you look at that, it's like
southern Pittsburgh.
What I'm saying is that
I'm on the warm side of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Right next to the steel mill.
They're working on getting rid of the daylight
closed
savings,
steel mill.
Right? No, but I'm saying, like, this is one of those things that you could have. Like, there are, like, the calculated risk part of it is that, Nate, if you and Jess talked about it and you're like, no, so like, can we survive 2 years? And can we be happy? My priority is us. And can I do this so that the goal is in 2 years that financially we are better off and I am happy there is that fear that if you would take that step in that company, in that opportunity, that the end all be all in a short period of time that you could get to that point, that is a risk. And it is a initial step back with the sense that one step back is two steps forward. Or do you say it's not worth the risk, which is where you seem to be at? But again, you did it. You took that step. You actually didn't just get in that mode. And I love this, is that when we're talking about taking risks, is that the risks that are the most regretful are the ones that you just never even tried.
Didn't even ask the question.
You didn't even take the first step. All you do is talk about your glory days. You know what I mean? Not you, Nate. I'm talking about everyone. I'm saying everyone. It's like, oh man, if I would have just went up and talked to that girl, man, I probably would have been married and been so happy, man. Look at her now. She's so great. It's like, you didn't though. So now the next girl that comes along, fucking talk to her. At least introduce yourself. Be like, hello, I'm Steve. You know, like you actually have that conversation. You know, you do that. The same thing with the job. If you want to do something, it's not you just throw everything in, no holds barred, fuck everything else. It's the fact that you're like, you start putting yourself out there. You start learning more. You don't just talk about it. I love that you did that.
And you're more educated now about the role or the possible roles in the industry than you were before having that conversation. Mm-hmm. Kevin, go for it.
Well, I was going to say, while you're thinking, you kind of hesitated there. When I first got into the industry, like I had worked retail for a little over a year. Like I'd enjoyed cigars. I had smoked cigars since I was in college, but I'd only been in the industry from the retail side for a little over a year when I first interviewed and got the position being a sales rep. That didn't work out, but ever since then, I've at least stayed in that industry.
You have, because
I do have a passion for it. I do enjoy it. I enjoy the connection you build with people. You know, I like, there was a customer that came in Sunday after you left, Steve. Todd was initially helping this customer, and the customer's like, well, I'm looking for some cigars that are going to pair with a nice bourbon. And Todd's like, hey, Nate, this guy's got a question for you. And so he's like, this guy's looking for cigars to pair with bourbon. I was like, all right, what bourbon? And the guy's like, well, my first one is this one. I was like, all right, this cigar. Mm-hmm. He's like, and then I also have this. I was like, all right, this cigar. Like this guy rattled.
So you have a
this guy
gift and a skill that you've worked on.
This guy rattled off 4 different whiskeys, and I pointed a cigar that I thought, based on my experience, not only in the
you should
cigar.
Try that on the show.
Not only. I was gonna say, God damn it, Spencer, you jumped the gun. But no, because of my experience, in the cigar industry, knowing what different cigars taste like, and also being a part of the podcast for as long as I have been, I was able to, point that customer in the right direction. And after that customer bought the cigars that I recommended, I felt good about myself because I felt like I gave that customer the absolute best options to fit what they wanted. And, I hope they work out. And I actually told that customer, I was like, hey, if you like those pairings that I recommended, like take a picture of those pairings.
So I gotta
just let me know how they work out.
I love that directness, because I gotta say this. I'm gonna tie a couple things in. I'm gonna get Shannon involved here before you take off, because I know you're hitting your bedtime. The roaming barber, he's got to give you a fade before Saturday.
I love that. Just yeah.
But Capes, you asked about like the BS cigar company and all that stuff, right? Here's something. I'm gonna switch gears to a point. This is what I love about Spencer, right? Is that we've super handsome. No, it's the fact that there are two sides of this, right? If you are all in it for yourself, and I'll give you my mic here.
I was going to handle mine.
Whatever works. There's two sides of this, right? This is an active role. Capes, you're in an industry that I can't help your business. I'm not hiring healthcare workers, right? That's That's what you do. So I can't
yet.
But if I have someone that's like, I'm going to be a traveling nurse, I want to do this stuff, and it's like, I got a guy.
Sure.
It's all about networking. I was involved in like those networking things when I was in the moving industry, and it's like when I was there, it's like I can talk to all the realtors. I'm the last person you call. I just want you to know me. I want you to know the company and what I offer. But there is something that when you look at that is that you have someone, you encourage people to do it. This is not a plug or anything for BS or anything else, but it's like if you are supportive of someone following and you believe in them and you are close to them, is that you support them. This is not directed at you, Capes, or Spencer or Nate or anyone else. I mean, it's literally like there's a meme going out there when you go in to visit your friend or you use their service and you want a deal, you should pay fucking full price. If you have a friend that does landscaping and you want to like support them, you don't have, hey, come out to the house. You know what I mean? Like, hey,
you're doing them a favor.
What kind of deal can you give me?
I'll
It's
pay
like,
you in cigars.
No, you should want to, if you have the means, pay like, what's the cost? Oh, it's going to be like $1,000. It's like, cool. But I'll give you it for $800. No, what was the original one? You're making a living. I'm going to pay someone I don't know probably that or more. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna give you the support. With the BS stuff, it's like I smoke cigars all the time. It's like I know someone that has their own blend. Am I gonna go online and I'm gonna like shop around and like get the best deal? Sure. And on the side, I'm gonna smoke BS cigars. Cabinetry, same thing. If I have the means to update my kitchen, the first person I'm gonna call is Spencer.
And I will charge you full
and
price.
I will not be able to afford him, but I'm going to tell them.
If you really like retail times too.
If I'm going to tell my friends that make more money than me, it's like, I got a guy. He gave me a great
pay
quote.
Them full price.
Let me show you
Steve told me to
let me show you what he would have done if I could afford it.
I need to make a living.
But I'm saying it's about the support because that is that full circle part of it. But it is about the people that are around you that support you. And that's why I want Shannon to actually talk a little bit about that, because we talk about this, and Nate, you were talking about, you and Jess talking about this position that you could get a part of. But when you were on the podcast originally, you told your whole story. After the fact, you've talked about this, but so Shannon Chapman is a local in Columbus. He's a barber. This is what I love about Shannon. Not only did he follow his dreams, but he had the support. What I love about having Spencer on is that not only you've worked with Shannon, no, you've worked with Brian Penn,
yes,
but when there's someone that does something that there's a need that they actually will support that community. You have someone doing something that you need. So who do you go to?
Trusted community, referral stuff like that. I just talked to Shannon about this earlier, man, because I wasn't
trying to put you in a spot.
No, but you're right. It's
I don't have hair. I don't know the hair game.
I saw you have shampoo in. Why do you have shampoo?
So that's the guest bathroom. I have a master bathroom.
I was like, who's this?
It's a hair and body
for horses, if I'm not mistaken.
I got a dog.
Go ahead, Shannon. All right, go for it, bro.
But if you ever need to, there's I think some Old Spice in the guest bathroom.
Oh, you don't think I've used that?
So what's the quote? Like, what do you want me to?
No, with you, it's like, so people that haven't listened to you, that I just want you to chime in real quick. Is that when you made that career move? Is that what was the biggest pivotal point that you
taking a risk? You
go from truck driving and delivery to this dream. And it happened at a really tough point.
Yeah, so I was in the trucking business for 20 plus years. And I was good at it and made a good living at it, but I just knew that wasn't where I wanted to end up and where I wanted to stay. It was, I don't want to call it a dead end, but it was a linear job. Right? Yeah. And I always had this dream of being a barber. I was always interested in that world, and I always was drawn to the barber world, just hanging out in the shop and doing all that kind of good stuff. So, and it really started in 2016. I had the burning desire to do it, but I didn't have the means at the time. It was just not the right time. So 2016, 17, I kind of put it on hold, kind of forgot about it. But then I got that fire in my belly to really change my life in 2018. So I made all the sacrifices to get myself into school in 2019.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I had to give up a lot. I had to sell my beloved vehicles. I had to sell a lot of stuff. We downgraded. We got rid of our house. Hopped into school. My wife had to take over all the duties, basically paying bills and taking care and holding our life down, basically. Because I couldn't really work while I was in school. I had a little part-time job, but it wasn't making anything. You know what I mean? Fast forward, got through school. Graduated January 10th, took my state boards February 4th, got in the shop February 18th, then 4 weeks. And
world shut down.
4 weeks, one day, the world shut down as I'm starting a new career. So that was another kick in the tail, but I was determined to make it work. So during that shutdown, I took every opportunity to improve my skills at home and do whatever I could to make my skills get better. Got back in the shop, and then I've just been doing everything I possibly could from that point to improve my skills. And here I'm in today, man. It's changed my life.
So I want to know something here. So the Capes, I'm going to take advantage of you being in the garage in this show right now. So the difference. So Shannon, why did you make that move?
I was going to ask, what was the moment that flipped?
No, not the moment. What was the support system? Was it Shannon?
100%. I remember I came to her and I was like, look, I really.
Yeah, so Shannon Chapman. Yeah, so his wife is also.
Yeah, my wife's name is Shannon. So.
Chapman. But what was that when we talk about the fear early on in this part too? It was always about the fear of like unknown change, like whatever.
Yeah, so when I made this decision,
you in your situation, you're married, you have some responsibilities financially and everything else. You have a good job, you're making good money. What was your
So it came to a head in 2018. I just couldn't get out of my head. And the fear was say, hey, babe, I'm ready to change my life. This is going to flip everything upside down. What do you think? And she looked straight at me. I was 42 years old when I made this decision. So this is crazy.
Young 42.
Young 42.
You look 41. You look 41.
Strapping 42.
You stretch a lot. You ate well.
Jacked.
And she looked me dead in the eye. She's like, well, you're not getting any younger, so what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And she put it back in my court. She's like, I'll support you 100%. Whatever you want to do, I've got your back.
I like how she turned it back on you.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, babe,
that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, but it's not this. That's not what we want. It's like what you think is going to happen. Like, babe, I want to support you, whatever else.
Then you're asking
it's literally her looking at you. I know Shannon too.
But then you're asking,
what do you want to do?
You're asking someone else.
Asshole.
At that point, you're almost asking someone else to make that decision for you.
You have to lean on someone sometimes. That's why
they sometimes they know the best decision for you as well.
Sometimes she didn't argue with me. She didn't like, well, let's sit down and let's just go over all this and really, if this is the right thing. It wasn't any of that. It was, if this is what you want, we'll push forward and we'll make it happen.
So that's what I want to do as a contrast with Capes, like Kevin. Like it's you have like so we got Shannon out here making a big career move, and you have someone doing this, taking the risk. That was big. Yeah. Not only do you have you're shifting careers, but like when you're in school, you're not making money.
No.
Right. So that is something that when we're talking about
you're losing money.
What I was talking about earlier is that like when you have people that are financially like depending on you, there's other factors out there. But when like you Capes, like you were out there and Spencer with your career change, like you had this whole career path going. But I'll start with Capes is that because I think people identify with this a little bit is that so Capes at that time you're living in Columbus, you had a great job, you're making some good money. And you thought you could, like what you alluded to, there's more out there. And now you have to move to an area that you don't really have contacts with. Right? Pittsburgh? How many friends did you have out there? You probably have some friends.
Now or then?
Then.
Oh, none. Didn't know so in the town.
I just know like you're a likable guy. I figured you like have like two or three.
I believed in my ability to make some.
My point is that, you know, when you don't like, so in contrast, like, thank you, Shannon, for sharing that. Is that you like Shannon has this support system and his wife that is like, now or never. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I want you to be happy and I have faith in you. You at that time, you were going through this whole move potential, this whole new job potential, that if you failed, it was just you. There was no real support system other than your friends being like, dude, I got faith in you.
Well, the support system is move home with your parents, right? If it fails, you got nothing. You move home. You don't
go back to Cleveland?
Well, yeah, I'm saying you don't necessarily have, in his case, and I don't mean to speak for him, but he didn't have the support to have, you know, a wife, which is the alternative of it.
Did you have a safety net when you moved out to Pittsburgh?
I mean,
his own.
I wasn't gonna end up on the street. I guess my safety net would be we go and try it somewhere else. The point that I was gonna make, when you guys are talking, and your point stimulated me, is
relax.
It's important. Well,
he loves being stimulated.
Yeah, just raise the mic.
Yeah. Why is your hand on my thigh?
It's not. That was Spencer.
That's not my hand.
It was yours earlier.
It's a nice watch.
That's a nice cigar.
Thank you.
But on a serious note, especially as you get older, when you look and analyze at making a change, whether it's a relocation, whether it's a significant other, whether it's a new job, whether it's buying a home, upgrading your home, you know, what the case may be, the next decision isn't going to most likely check every one of your boxes. There's going to be some boxes unchecked. So at that time, what was important to me was upside potential. What was important to me was leadership. Who am I reporting to? Pittsburgh did not check my location box. Quite the contrary. Honestly, it didn't necessarily check my financial box. I took a pay cut to go there with the risk of the upside potential. If we hit these goals, we can far surpass. And I'm sure you're in the same boat, Shannon. We can, we might be a little shit for a year, 18 months, but we can get there. So I think when people look at a risk and they say, well, I'm only going to leave job A for job B if it checks all 9 of my boxes, it ain't going to fucking happen. Okay. Maybe if you're right out of school and you're a bartender, nothing against bartenders, but I mean, and then you get a sales job, it's more money, it's a better location, you move to a better town, but you buy a nicer car. Okay, that checks all your boxes. But the reality of it is you have to assess, okay, say I have 10 boxes here. These are my 3 or 4 that must be checked. These are my 3 or 4 that I'd like to check. These are my 2 that I accept aren't going to be checked. But here's the greater upside to that. And I think when you indicated, you know, you were chatting with the rep, it didn't check all your boxes. Well, it didn't check enough of them.
It wasn't that it didn't check enough of them. It didn't check
the right ones.
It didn't check the right ones. So when you're talking about the 10 boxes, and you're talking about
10 is relative. Could be 20.
No, I know. No, I know what you mean. But when you were breaking that down, you have like 3 or 4 boxes that are the core.
Mm-hmm.
The other stuff is secondary. Then you have some tertiary boxes.
Ooh, good word.
I love that word.
It's a good word.
In my case,
I'm gonna drink some bourbon to that word.
Yeah, now we're actually drinking bourbon instead of rye. In my case, the position didn't hit enough primary boxes. Mm-hmm. It checked, you know, a lot of secondary and tertiary boxes. It did not check the primary boxes, and that's what turned me off from that position.
All right. And I think you brought up a good point,
Shannon.
know, with Shannon, with
remember, this is audio also.
You made the switch.
The audio
when Spencer's listening on
it's my first time.
You're doing great.
Thanks, Coach.
You are.
It's his last
first
time.
of many.
First and last.
Well, even if it's, you know, for example,
you don't have that kind of clout here.
I'll wait.
Go ahead.
You see it, you know, should I pursue a relationship to the next step, or should I get out of a relationship, or should I whatever? Your primary boxes aren't being checked. Maybe there's some stuff.
I love that.
There's no gal that's going to check all 10 of your boxes. Hopefully there is, but it's highly unlikely. But these are the core 4 or 5 that have to be there.
Your boxes
or else we're not going
change
anywhere.
over time.
Oh, they evolve. You bet your ass they do. Of course they do.
Damn right.
No question.
You think you know what you like.
Well, I think. Well, that's called growth and maturity, right?
Steve, I've seen your boxes change over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Can you not talk
before we
about
talk
my
about other
box?
people's boxes.
Spencer, I've seen your box, period.
Yeah.
But however,
And there's the clip.
Closing remarks.
Are we there?
No.
no, but
We should be.
no question. No question.
No, you're absolutely right, though, Gabe. I mean,
So-
you're absolutely right. But to your point,
Spencer, let the adults talk.
joking aside, that
I'll take care of the comedy, Kevin. Thank you.
but to your point, though, is that as you grow, your boxes do change. You think you know what you want, but we are all like, you guys are in your 30s. I've reached the 40s, and we've had like Doug. Last week, Doug Sifford,
65.
he's in his 60s, and he has kids that
And
are our
grandkids.
age, right?
Oh,
So
kids
but,
our age and grandkids. Yeah.
but my point is that your boxes do change. It's not about settling for something else or settling down or like letting go of your dreams. It's the fact that we all know that you always look back and you look at these people that are Spencer, you want to get in this. I can tell you're
No, I'm just waiting for you to stop
Twitching.
talking. I'm just waiting for you to stop talking.
it's the Bourbon BS podcast.
Yeah.
So
And I think
as soon as you start a podcast, I'll
What does
be a
the S
guest
stand
on.
for? What does the S stand for?
I think also too with
That's how you
each
do it. You just go into it. Like
with
Gabe's-
each accomplishment,
Sean.
with each accomplishment, maybe you look at things, for example, when I decided to move to LA back in 2008, I wanted to live in Florida, Los Angeles, right? Location was number one. I was gonna make a little more money, but location was number one. This is a vehicle to get me out there. I went out to Pittsburgh, which is
Gorgeous.
couldn't be further from the location I wanted.
Just the beaches there.
But you see what I'm saying, though?
So I think also as you get older, you have more experiences, some positive, but a lot more negative experiences that can make you more jaded towards taking risks.
100%.
So, in college, when I was 18 years old, I feared nothing. And, you'd go up to anybody, talk to anybody, and you had no fear of rejection. But as you get older, you have more experience with rejection. You also know you have more information than you did there. So your boxes of maybe when you're getting
You evolve.
you evolve,
really
but
do.
when you're choosing a partner at a younger age, you can waive a lot of the things because you don't have the same types of information. Or if you're choosing a job, you don't know all the positives and negatives. So you have, as you get older, you just have more information, which can be a good thing, but can also be a bad thing towards making a decision. Sometimes
Victoria
when
says aging can change your boxes.
yeah,
Well, so
agreed.
So
Woke out there, by the way.
well, I mean, I can speak to
tell
that.
him to
I
go
can speak
fuck
to that a
himself.
little bit.
He's
because-
out in Vegas now.
What did you say? Miss you guys.
One of our buddies is
Check
talking
my
shit to
boxes.
us, yeah.
All right, well,
well, so to go back to
Can you take nice cock?
no.
so to go back
Do
to
it for me.
to go back to what Victoria said, which, by the way, Kevin, that's my mother. So
Just in case he was going to say something.
yes, but no,
Gabe's
so-
is single.
He just loves Victoria.
but she also followed that up saying changing needs as well.
Yes.
So 5-10 years ago, there was no need or no desire for her to pick up and move to another state.
Okay.
However, in 2020, when her husband of more than 20 years passed away, now she was in a different situation, different age, different circumstances, and she made the change. She made the decision to relocate and actually move to North Carolina and just do a complete fresh start.
I can't tell you how many people do that, Nate. When a spouse, my parents are down in Florida, and the amount of people who are widowed who have decided to pick up their lives and just be like, now that not free, but now that I don't have the same responsibilities or another half, they have decided to relocate to warmer climates.
And when you say that,
It's a warning shot, though.
well, to what you just said,
What's a warning
Spencer,
shot?
It's a warning shot because I'm sorry, like Nate, hold that thought. But the warning shot that your parents are meeting these people. A lot of times, these wouldn't it be nice if we retired? We go down there, and then when life hits you in the face,
this is what they wanted to do.
That's when they make the move. To your point, way back, is that when you get fired from a job, you get broken up with, you get all these things that's
change in relationship status. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, it's like when the hand is dealt to you and you were okay with it, things weren't great, whatever, if they were good, but when you have to go in that survival mode, like Florida has that reputation of this, what's
the old people, this
criminal
snowbirds,
Heaven's waiting room.
Yeah, Heaven's waiting room.
Let's get after it. But it's one of those things. Is like if you were talking about it for 40 years and your significant other passes away, unfortunately, I got to do this.
Got to or want to?
So
they wanted
maybe
to.
need to.
No, they wanted to for a long time, for 10, 20 years.
Maybe not.
This is the plan.
So that's what I was going to say to what you just. So there was never a point where my mom ever mentioned to me that I can recall where, like she wanted to move to North Carolina. At one point, my stepdad had an interview to become a head pastor at a church in Phoenix. And she was all on board with that because of, warmer climate, because she hates the winter here in Ohio, even though she grew up here ever since she was a teenager.
You can still hate the weather if you grew up here.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
100%.
My stepfather, her husband of more than 20
Done.
years, never held her back from moving and changing locations. It was, there were now fewer boxes that needed checked, and it was more of a fresh start.
Fair.
For her, it was just, she hated moving away from all of her family.
Of course.
Because all of her family, except for one sister, lives here in the Central Ohio or within 30 minutes of Columbus. They all live here. Her 2 kids live here in Central Ohio. Her grandkids live here in Central Ohio. It was more of she just needed a fresh start, and it became an opportunity for her to take that chance.
Yeah.
She also was able to work from home at that time, so that afforded her the opportunity to be able to take that risk, still be able to work until she retired, which she just did 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Congrats to Victoria.
So
Vicky?
Thank
you. Okay.
Victoria.
For you. Yeah. She's a saint.
She is.
She won't call herself that.
All right. So let's do some closing remarks here for part 2.
You on first?
I'm going to start it and I'll probably finish it.
Jesus.
Because every time I wait for you guys to do it, you all
What about the closing remarks?
Yeah, well, we're here there. Capes, thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you. It's been too long.
You are someone that I hold very dear to my heart, and such a big supporter of everything that I do, and I hope you reciprocate that. When I look at this, is what I want to introduce to you guys in your closing remarks is things that you're talking about, Nate, is that we're talking about that whole thing where just now it's when someone else that is like your husband or wife that passes away, and then you finally do this. It's the people that prepare for the retirement. And they put this chip on their shoulder as they have to work until they can finally retire and enjoy life. That's not that is a risk. That's literally a risk that you will live until you're 55, 65, whatever the age is like, and you sacrifice all this stuff. Those years where you're in your 30s and 40s, and you should enjoy while you're doing it. It's a mix of it all. I hate to see people that finally enjoy what they were seeking out their entire life while they end their finite time. What I love about what you, Capes, and Spencer, that you guys are doing is that you guys are very active. That taking risk is not always about the next job, the next thing. Like, it's not, taking risk is really not. I managed salespeople back in the day when I was at the moving company. Is I had the best applications that I had. The most active salespeople were so good at what they did, but they were just waiting for when they would make six figures and then high six figures. And it's like they were taking these jobs. I'm like, just stop for a second and make the money you can make now. Be happy what you're doing before you are just envisioning your next step. Because if you're just constantly envisioning the next step, the next company, the next relationship, all that stuff, you won't enjoy what you have. You won't actually grow. You won't. You're constantly looking at the next step. Taking risk is not about taking the next risk. It's, in my opinion, I want everyone to never get complacent. That's the biggest part of it, is that if you're about taking risks and now all of a sudden, hey, this is panning out, like, I'm good and I'm going to be comfortable doing this. I got my significant other, I got a good job, all that stuff, is if you just are reaching that next step and you hit it, you're good. That's constructive, but I also don't like the attitude of, I will never water the grass on my side because there's always something better out there.
Well, I think I listened to every single word that you said there.
I appreciate that.
What did he say? What did he say?
Or maybe I did. I'm a great salesman, but but I think it's kind of a contradiction in the sense that if you're not consistently seeking the next step, that to me is the definition of complacency.
Perfect. Love it.
No, or
you're good.
No.
It's like a
You're
shark. It's
right.
like a shark. Keep moving, right?
So
that's a good analogy too.
Here's what I'll say to that. And again, I'm not trying to do my closing remarks. I'm also not.
Yeah.
Hey, we close this, but you damn well please. Okay.
Shannon, kick him out. Get him out.
Do you want me to mute his mic?
No. What I'm saying
Other
is,
side of the table.
so what I will say to that, Kevin, is the fact that you have to. I'm of the opinion that you have to really enjoy the growth.
Yes, agreed.
Right. So you can be in a position that you are, if all you are in your mind is looking for taking risk, and all you're doing is trying to get the next best thing on the opportunities of someone else that is giving you that opportunity. You are not taking responsibility for your actions. The greatest growth is in my opinion, is the fact that you are enjoying it and the people around you are succeeding. Everyone's winning. It is more fun when your customers or your clients are actually succeeding. It's not just about what you could do. It's the fact that everyone's winning, including you. It is a lot of fun in business and also relationships that everyone really enjoys what they're doing. And if they're doing better, you reward them. If everyone's making more money, if everyone's taking steps in their life, and as soon as you get complacent and you stop showing that affection, the interest, the feedback. If you don't keep all those things going, that's when you get complacent really easy. Because if you're doing a good job, sales, if you're selling more stuff, you should make more money. If you're in a relationship and you are enjoying it, don't get complacent. Show that person that you enjoy that, and they should show you the same. It should be fun. Life can be fun if you just really put effort into it. I really think that, like with you capes out in Pennsylvania, you're coming back here, you're expanding your business. Number one, be all should be, we are all winning. That's why we do it. If we're not all winning, if I'm just gonna hold you to this standard and I'm gonna really grill you and I'm just gonna really beat you down, that's not fun. They're gonna leave.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a personal relationship, if you have a significant other, or you have a romantic relationship, if you are just constantly holding them to a standard and it's well, you didn't text me, you didn't call me, you didn't hug me long enough. That's no one's having fun. If you appreciate the wins, and when there are some losses, which they will be, how do we get back to that euphoria? How do we get back to that? Let's have fun. Let's make money. Let's have fun. Let's experience love. Let's have these laughs.
I think you just answered a question you asked me about an hour and 15 minutes ago. I left here because it just wasn't any fun anymore.
All right, Capes, you want to do your closing remarks of the night, the evening?
I do. I can. First and foremost, thank you very much for having me on the podcast.
Love having you over the house, man.
Known these two guys several years. I've known you several minutes, which has been great.
At this point, several hours.
Like 2. It's all semantics.
2 to 4.
I'll sell it at 7.
We're already in hour 3 of the podcast, so it's been several hours.
No,
you guys are dating.
No,
that's how that works.
No. What I've enjoyed the most.
We're not exchanging numbers.
You already gave me yours, guy. What I've enjoyed the most about this is very, very seldom do you truly have this depth of a conversation, almost an introspection in some ways, amongst people that, are like-minded, are striving for success, but are not afraid to call you out on certain things. This has been, I didn't know you.
I want them to hear you. Man, that mic.
Just met you. I had not met you either, but I mean,
Nate and Shannon.
Really, really enjoyed hearing Nate and Shannon, your stories. I can relate to them. I know you very well. I know you quite well. Oh,
Steve.
God.
Next time I'll get the names right. No, but it was just it was eye-opening.
Steve.
I look forward, to talking to Chris and Phil again on the podcast, and ultimately delving into
Lucky
a topic.
you're handsome.
But no, thank you again. Cigar event Saturday is gonna be a great event. Been every one of them. I have brought via Cigars to my club in Pittsburgh. They are very, very, very well received. Look forward to taking some more back.
Be happy to ship
from this event. I'll give you something to ship. And just overall, thank you guys for tuning in.
All right, cool. So
go ahead, Steve.
So
Spencer. It's Spencer's turn.
So first off, thank you for me, episode number 19, for whoever's still listening, the 4 of you.
But who's counting?
I appreciate it.
Me.
So Steve kind of went down a different path, but where I thought he was going is so I'm in the car a lot, so I listen to a lot of podcasts. I was listening to Deepak Chopra the other day, and he said, what's the point of life? What are you up to get out of life? And his thing was, you want to have joy, not happiness. You want to have joy.
Yes.
So, and taking it back to the subject itself, the risk, to take the risk personally, professionally, that will give you the most joy when you look back at your life. I do appreciate the uniqueness of the cigar that we had, Steve, and the uniqueness of the bottle that the lovely Kristen got for us. So thank you very much for that. But agreed to not take the stupidity route with the risk, but to take the risk that will lead you to the most amount of joy is kind of where I got out of this. Nathan?
Ooh, so formal.
Is it Nathan or Nathaniel?
Nathaniel. But no one spells it right, so I just go by Nate.
Nate.
Nate, dog.
Mr. Hale.
Yeah. That's my dad.
And R.I.P. Razor Ramon.
No.
Hey, yo.
R.I.P.
So there towards the end, right before the closing remarks, when I talked about my mom moving, Spencer, you talked about, and so did Steve, about the people that move after they've retired because then they get to enjoy life. I think one aspect of taking risks is you take a risk that allows you to enjoy life now.
Yes.
Atta baby.
It's
baby.
like
atta baby, atta boy.
Like it's still great when whatever it is that you're doing allows you to enjoy life later on, but I think it's more helpful, beneficial.
Tomorrow's not guaranteed,
and just more pleasing if you can actually take a risk and do something that allows you to enjoy what's going on around you now. I think there's a lot of people out there now that are like, you know what, I'm just going to put my nose to the grindstone and work my ass off for the next 30, 40, 50 years.
Fuck that.
And then I'm going to retire, 2 days before my funeral.
That's how it goes.
And then start to live.
And then, then start to
right.
That's how it goes.
I got a week.
But no, I
live like a king.
But I
Nuts,
like
bro.
blow all my retirement in a week. You'll be surprised how much whiskey I can drink in a week.
What do you want?
Vegas, baby.
I got the Eve's pick.
That's right.
150 bottles for everyone.
That's right.
Bottle service.
But no, like, but why wait until you reach that older age? Like, find something, like, take a chance and do something that you enjoy, but also allows you to enjoy life now. Like I know if I stay where I'm at in my professional career, I know eventually I'll get to the point where I can retire and enjoy life. But with the things that have been going on, like, I don't want to wait that long. I want to enjoy stuff now. So
you got 40 or 50 years left of this shit.
No, what I mean is if I'm not getting the joy out of what I'm doing day to day, then I need to find something that does allow me to have joy day to day, because both of those can provide joy later on when I'm older and I retire. But why wait till I'm 65 to enjoy life? Like, I should be enjoying life now. And part of the struggle is find what is preventing you from enjoying life right now and make a change. And that's where I think taking the risk comes in, is leaving that comfort zone of waiting until, decades later. Take a chance, calculated, as Kevin started part 2 with, take a calculated risk that affords you the opportunity to not only enjoy life later, but also enjoy life now, because why wait? I mean, it's not like it's.
I've never heard you say those words before, Nate.
I
listen.
so impactful.
I listen to podcasts. I've never heard him say that. Have you?
Listen to every one of them.
Unfortunately, yeah. Have you heard?
I love that.
Attaboy. I've never heard you say that.
Steve, going into your closing remarks, do you ever see a time in your life you're not working out? Probably not right now, because of what
tomorrow.
It's okay to have a rest day.
You guys are here.
It's okay to have a rest day. What I mean though is, like,
so
I'll give you something to work out.
Jesus.
And here we are.
That's the last.
Yeah, come to an NFL Sunday when Capes is in town.
We got a deal on these.
You know,
1 for 4, 2 for 8.
So what I took from all that is I absolutely love the fact that there is a hunger to do better. I don't enjoy that there are people out there are people that live in this life that they just want to like get to retirement. Just grind away. I admire it. I love that.
Different generation, man.
It can be a different generation, but I also look at the fact that people lose the joy in life while you are working, while you are doing these things. It's not always about the next thing that you can do, that you can make more money, that you can have the better relationship, because we all know that the next job can blow up in your face. We all know that the marriage I'm in, the relationship I'm in is not what I want.
Job you're in.
Both.
Yeah.
Both. So I want to seek something else. I'm going to take the risk of going out there and getting what I want. It's a big self-reflection. Like what you're talking about, Nate, is you really need to push yourself constantly to enjoy what you have, what you could have. And sometimes you can build on that relationship. You can build on that job. You can absolutely grow what you have in that opportunity. I really enjoy the fact that you can do more with what you have if you put that constant effort in. And if that ceiling, if that person is holding you back, you give that person or that employer an opportunity to. It's all about communication. Here we are. We can do more. Do you want to do it more with me? And if they don't, you have to have that self-respect and self-reflection that you're bound for more.
Cheer, cheer.
You can only drag people so far
without sacrificing your own wants and needs.
Absolutely. But it's that positive outlook. Let's do more. Let's have fun. Taking risks. It's not about sacrificing everything just for this gamble, but it's literally about like, let's do more. The comfort that we have right now is good. But if we get complacent on that business or personal relationship, we all know people that have failed. And I would venture to guess that most people that fail are the ones that get complacent. If you're actively cultivating those relationships, business or personal, is that you will enjoy the fruits of your labor, because you're not the same person you were back then. Taking the risk is not always about taking the small risk. It's not always about taking the big risk. It's really about like, the risk I got is to tell you I love you. And I wouldn't. It would also be on the business side is, hey, we crushed it. Let's crush it again. Business or personal. We had a great couple months. We had a great vacation. We personally, like we're good. I know we're good. Tell someone that you enjoy the progress that you're going
Enjoy the wins.
Enjoy the wins.
There you go.
If things are one thing, my wife texted me. If things are going good, quit looking like you were weaned on a pickle.
Japes?
What?
Capes? I don't know what that is.
I think that you brought up a word. You just said a word that I don't think has been said this entire podcast, but it is crucial to risk taking, and that is the word fail. Anybody who is willing to take risks is going to fail. The reality of success is learning A, why you failed, B, not repeating that behavior, and B, getting back up, and C, not repeating that behavior. Whether it can be as calculated as you want it to be, you still may fail.
100%.
But you have to get up and fucking do it again.
So
The ones that fail don't get up.
Shut up.
people buy from people they like, right?
Yes.
You have to like yourself.
You have to sell yourself.
You have to like yourself before you sell themselves.
That's true.
Have some fun. Make the life out to be what you want it to be.
I'm fucking pumped for Saturday, my friend.
Let's go.
Fucking pumped for Saturday, bro.
Let's
Do it.
appreciate
All right.
appreciate you
Cheers.
guys having
Happy
me, y'all.
Whiskey Wednesday.
Cheers, my friend.
Cue the guitar.
And thank you to all of our sponsors.
It's still on for Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's still live right now. So just don't say anything really weird.
Load up.
0 in there.
So here's something I learned from Nate.
We still live?
Yes.
Yeah, we're still
So
live.
You don't
Like-
want to, and I do this every fucking time. You don't want to smash a cigar.
Yeah.
You just want to set it down.
Okay.
Yep.
Smash it. I do it every time, and I'm not saying you do it. I just
Oh, I
know-
did. I did it.
I just know that I do it every time, and I know that he like looks at me like you just want to set it down. It burns out quicker.
Yeah. Let it go out on its own.
Cool.